Good evening and welcome to our work session, March 16th. Would you please stand and um, we'll have the pledge by Councilman Arnold Lopez and the invocation by Councilwoman Dusty Brantner.
I pledge
Allegiance
allegiance
to
to
the
the
flag
flag
of
of
the
the United
United
States
States
of
of America
America
and
and
to
to
the
the
republic
republic
for
for
which
which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. As we gather here today in service to our community, let us take a moment to reflect on the values that unite us: respect, wisdom, and a shared commitment to the well being of our city. May we approach our discussions with open minds, seek understanding in our differences, and work together with integrity and purpose. May our decisions be guided by fairness and compassion, and may we always strive to serve with humility and dedication. With gratitude for this opportunity to lead and support one another, we begin today's meeting. Amen.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to item number 5. We're going to close our regular meeting and convene into an executive session.
Mayor, I motion that we close our regular meeting and convene into our executive session.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close our regular meeting and enter into executive session. All in favor? Carries. We're now in then we'll move on to item number 7. We're going to close executive session, and we're going to reconvene back into our work session.
Mayor, Council, Troy Bingham, your Finance Director. We're here tonight to talk about the CIP plan for 2027. So this would be starting in July of this year and going into June of next year. And it also includes a 5-year CIP, so it actually is a plan that goes out to 2031. So as we talk about these things tonight, it's, should it even be on the plan? Should it stay on the plan and maybe it's in the wrong year? Or is the plan good as it stands? So let me get through these slides and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So you have the 2027, 2031 CIP plan in front of you, the capital improvement plan. It is a fully balanced plan. To show you that, I've given you a 1-page spreadsheet based on the 2025 preliminary audit. We have draft financials back right now. Given what we have in 2025 for fund balance, again, we have the unassigned unrestricted fund balance that comes from the financials that you'll be presented sometime in the next 30 days, hopefully. The self-restriction is what our policy, that 50% fund balance plus 1 year of current debt service. So as you can see for the general fund, we hold back about $10.6 million. And that's self-restricting. There's nothing that says that you have to do that, but we do that as part of our policy, and that's what we have. So as you can see, the CIP that I've given you tonight is below. It shows you the 2027, 2031 CIP numbers for each one of the funds. The only fund that is negative is the general fund, and we can talk about that because keep in mind, we do continue to add to the CIP every year. We add money through the form of money that we don't spend in the budget, carry forward, all that stuff adds. So in 5 years, we could have $3.5 million. So it may look negative today, but that doesn't mean that it's not balanced. In 5 years, we believe if the economy stays up the way it is and doesn't have a recession, we should have the funds to cover it. So I'm giving you a fully balanced CIP as of tonight. So there's really, you don't need to take any projects off, but that's where you as a council and is here to tell us what projects do the community want, what needs to stay, what's a priority. This is what staff is telling you that is a priority tonight. So this is where you guys get to add projects. You could add things if you wanted to. We do have some leftover funds here. If there's some projects you think we're not addressing, this is the night to bring it up. Again, whatever vote we make tonight is just we're moving forward with whatever vote happens, but the final vote is the budget in May. So this is just kind of a preliminary direction tonight, but nothing is official. We're just going over the CIP tonight. We're answering questions and going through it. I've kind of highlighted, I've given you the big 11 by 17 is 4 pages long. I've kind of highlighted in yellow the projects that I'll talk about tonight. So I'm specifically going to go over the yellow ones and the orange ones. When we get to water, I'll explain that. But anything else, if you have questions, stop us during those sections. I have all of our directors here tonight for the most part. They can speak to any one of these projects. If not, I will try to cover for them. But I believe we have enough expertise in the room to answer any questions you have on what's in the CIP. So with that in mind, again, I guess I've already covered this. We prioritize our projects. This contains every project that city thinks is important over the next 5 years. We believe this is the direction we need to head. We believe we have the funds to cover it. All right, and does this meet our strategic goals? That's a question that you guys have to answer as a council. Are we heading in the right direction? Are we going the wrong direction? That's what we're get to answer tonight. So everything's wide open. We started this back in October. Our engineering department, Jace Elkins, is our engineer that gathers all these projects together. There's 108 in the packet. If you have a previous packet that has 106, you're missing 2 projects. So hopefully I've given you the latest and greatest. Sorry, I didn't make enough copies. I didn't know everyone was coming tonight. Again, these are optional meetings. So I can get you some, but again, all my slides contain all of these 108 projects. But yes, there's 72 in this fiscal year. So when we talk about things in 2027, we want to focus on that because that's what's going to end up in the actual budget that we approve this year. The CIP plan is more of just a plan for the other 4 years, but what we do in 2027 is the most important vote. We are carrying forward almost $27 million from the fiscal year we're currently in, 2026, into 2027 because we don't think we're going to be done with some of those projects. So of the $54 million we think we're going to spend in CIP, or $57 million, I believe it is, 27 of it is actually carry forward from this year. So we have some plans as we talk about our operational budgets in April. We're going to present to you some ideas about how we can get on some of these projects. Some of these projects have been out there for 7 years. And we're getting on, they're moving, they're just moving very, very slowly. So in order to get to $177 million, this is the highest CIP we've ever had, we have to start talking about what we can do to start facilitating capital projects. And think about capital projects as putting funding back into the community. There's $14 million of general fund dollars that are not spoken for that could be back in the community, serving to add jobs, creating work, people going to restaurants, people staying at hotels. This is economic development at its core basis. The city has enough funds to stimulate through these projects, major construction projects, the economy. So think about it that way also. But we did start back in October. In November, we kind of refined some of this. December, we continue to refine it. In March, we finally put together our first council packets for you guys. If you came to the one-on-ones, I gave you the 106 pages, so some of you got a preview of this, but that was just a draft. Tonight is more of a finalized version. We've added 2 more projects, like I said. April, we plan on adjusting this further based on actions tonight and further actions that the council I will report back on the next council meeting, and then Brad Hemphill can weigh in on what he wants to see. If we're missing him tonight, he still gets to weigh in on what he wants to see in the CIP. But that's what we'll do through the month of April. And then hopefully in May, we finalize the CIP so we can actually finalize the budget in June. So keep that in mind. All right, there is multiple funding sources. Like, hopefully they make sense to you. When we talk about general fund, that's coming from local sales tax, state shared revenues. They're ongoing revenues, but every year we set aside some of those ongoing revenues to fund this CIP. So as I've talked to you guys in the one-on-ones a little bit, that ongoing revenue, we continue to eat it up as we increase our operating budget. So the less money we're adding into CIP, the less money we'll have in the future for more CIP projects. So that's one of the things we have to consider as we talk about the operating budget is, are we slowly strangling CIP? There is other funding sources. Even if we pass a balanced budget in the general fund, we end up only spending about 62% of what operational budgets we develop. So there is still chances to add fund balance. We end up adding because we don't spend everything we ask for, or revenues come in better than projected. Those are all benefits that increase fund balance that allow us to do more CIP projects. So there is multiple ways to fund the CIP. One of the major sources is, though, we set aside some of our ongoing revenues every year to fund the CIP. It's about $1 to $2 million. All right, grant funds, you'll notice that we do leverage, I think 23% of the CIP is we use general fund dollars or enterprise dollars to actually leverage grant dollars. So we bring $13.2 million into the community from the federal government, things that would normally not come into a community of this size. We're able to leverage because we spend a little bit of our funds, 10%, 5%, and the federal government takes care of 80, 90, 95% of the project. So those are good things. Grant projects that help bring money into the community from the federal government is always a great thing. There is also our utility funds, their utility rate study that we talked about at our last meeting, and we talked about possibly increasing at our final budget. That includes in those rate studies the ability to fund some of these plans. And I'm going to talk about some of those tonight, like water and sewer. We do have fund balance, as you can see from my one-page spreadsheet. It shows that we do have excess fund balance in those, but there is still projects that we did not include in the CIP. We've taken a stab, and we've done a lot more projects than we've ever done in water and sewer, but we still have 1940s, 50s, 60s pipe in the ground. So we're addressing the 1930s pipe with this CIP, but we're not addressing 1940s, 50s, or 60s. And leveraging debt is one of the things that I've introduced to this for the very first time. A lot of our stuff was cash funded for years, but leveraging debt so that we aren't using up money that we have right now. We're having citizens that are going to join the community in the future help fund these projects as we leverage the debt over the next 30 years. So some of these projects have debt, and we have to do that because, as you can see, cash-wise, we don't have enough, but we can borrow over time and slowly pay for it over 30 years, and we will have enough. So debt is sometimes necessary. It's a one-time lever you get to pull. Once you're in debt, you're in it for 30 years. So this is the one-time lever we're talking about in this CIP is things that we could debt fund and possibly get done. Why you'd want a debt fund is things today are going to cost a lot cheaper than they are 30 years from now. So taking advantage of recessions to build construction projects, these are great times to get great prices on projects. So I would suggest using debt so that we can get the best price today and get the project paid for over the next 30 years. So think about it that way when we talk about debt. It is a ongoing forever and ever. Every council from here to the next 30 years is going to have to talk about That's a guarantee. You're making a guarantee to the bank for the next 30 years. So, all right. And then I think I covered all that. Yep. All right. So here is the budget in bar shape, I guess. Kind of just shows you there's a lot of yellow, as you can see. Like I said, debt is that yellow. So we've introduced the idea of debt so that we can get some of these things done at a better price, but it is taking up most of this $177 million. The green is grant funds. That's that $13 million I talked about, is right there. Green, so there's a lot of green every year. Blue is our sales tax dollars. So general fund, we're not using a lot of general fund dollars. We're using, again, we'll pay the debt with general fund dollars, but we're using actual cash in the general fund very judiciously, you could say. And then red is our enterprise funds. Those are all what our enterprise funds have planned into their CIP. We'll talk about when I say pressure on the fund, that meaning that our CIP is a little bit larger than even the rate study. So that's where the fund, if you don't do rate increases, you're definitely in one situation, but if we have bigger CIP and we don't do rate increases, we get even further behind. So, all right, with that in mind, so yeah, like I said, $177.5 million is the total CIP, the biggest CIP that we've ever presented at the city of Safford. I believe it's even bigger than the counties, so we're up there. Our 1 year budget, $57.5 million. Again, 27 of that is
Troy?
from carryover.
Troy,
Oh,
Councilwoman
question.
Bratner.
Sorry, I just have a question on this. So you're showing in 2028 and 2029 quite a bit of debt, and then all of a sudden in 30 it disappears. Is that because you're wanting to do the debt in those years and
I'd
then
l-
no debt in the following?
So the strategic nature of debt, you don't want to issue every year. That's very expensive. You're gonna have to go out for rate changes and rate studies what do we call them? I'm going blank. My bonding, but my rate. So I have to actually go out and get a rate, like an actual study that a bank comes and tells us what our value of our city is. So I'm trying to strategically place our debt in 2028 and then again, open the idea for 2031. So if we don't make the 2028 debt cycle, we would do it 3 years later in a 2031 debt cycle. So we're only issuing debt once every 3 years so that we can go out and get one-time costs for issuing that debt down to a minimum. So thank you for pointing that out. Any other questions on debt? Okay. So again, the grant funds here are showing 46 million. There's a large project in sewer that we will talk about. Maybe it belongs on the CIP, maybe it doesn't. We need to broach the subject with Thatcher and Pima about the idea of a regional sewer system, and that's a $21 million grant funded project. We would not move forward unless somebody else came up with the funds to pay for that. So that is in this $177 million budget, is that $21 million idea of a regional sewer system. And maybe that's what we decide tonight, is that doesn't belong on here. Maybe it can be on next year. Maybe it's too soon. We haven't even had that conversation. I believe we're having that conversation soon. Next week. So that's a first time conversation. It's been broached. Okay. All right. And then 49% is debt funded. So again, I'm leveraging debt. The biggest thing is the $13.7 million. That was already debt that we leveraged back in 2016 when we started the project on Sanchez Road. USDA offered a $13.7 million loan. I think it's $10 million, but they offered us a low interest loan that would fund that project, and we're getting closer to actually breaking ground on that. So we're hoping in 7 years that we're getting that one. But those are questions we can answer as we get there. Here's how the CIP is broken up into. Again, we're going to talk about the general fund. When we're talking about the general fund, the source is general fund dollars, grants for the most part, and then cemetery has a small play in there. They do have a cemetery fund that we collect from each plot purchased. It's never really had a CIP, but we're starting to get more and more projects at the cemetery. Streets is a funding and it's a special revenue of its own. So streets, we add a 0.5-cent sales tax. So we use some of our sales tax dollars and we dedicate it to streets. And then the state gives us money specifically from VLT to pay for, and HERF money. And those are dedicated funds that can only be used on streets. I can't use street funds to do anything else with, but streets and sidewalks. So you'll see that those are pretty limited, but there's a few projects there. We don't collect enough to do major CIP projects, but once every 3 or 4 years or 5 years. So we try to save up. Again, I am introducing debt for some of these projects, for some of them, some of the smaller ones that we can issue and try to get ahead of, again, pricing is better now than it will be in 5 years.
You don't have these here in order later on. I think you show the pie on like airport and golf course and library. I think those are about the top three that
Oh,
are
airport,
used.
library is pretty small, but airport's pretty large, but you can point out to me when we get to that pie chart, you're gonna,
Yeah, but,
Show me what you're talking.
this isn't in the order of how much they get.
no, this is in the order that your packet, this packet is gonna be in this order.
Okay.
So it's kind of the logical order of how we structure our funds. That's probably the only order that it's in. I can't explain it. It was done long before I got here. This is how Data Now did it back in the day. So internal service funds, again, their funding for this comes from IT's funding. Half of it comes from the general fund, half of it comes from enterprise funds. So when we talk about IT projects, both sides of the equation, general fund and enterprise funds pay for it. AMI, 100% of it comes from utilities. So when we talk about AMI projects, it's really just a utility project across all the utilities. And the warehouse is the same thing. Everything is funded by the enterprise funds. So, and then when we get down to the enterprise funds, sanitation, landfill, water, wastewater, I guess it cut off gas and electric, but they're at the very bottom there. So those are our enterprise funds.
I don't actually see from here where it comes into vehicle maintenance and
So we will,
warehouse.
those will be part of the operating budgets. You'll see those transfers in and out, but yes, this is capital projects. So when I talk about a capital project, it's something that I can physically put my hands on, and it's something that has a useful life of greater than 1 year. So whatever I'm putting in here should have some sort of value, and it should be lasting for longer than 1 fiscal year. So when we talk about the operational budget, we do make operational transfers to our fleet, our AMI, our warehouse. Those are operational transfers that pay for their operational salaries, small purchases under $5,000. All of that gets paid for by those internal transfers. And those we'll talk about more in April. So, and we'll also, in April, I can point out where these get funded on the same sort of structure. But yes, there is a transfer dedicated specifically for capital for internal service funds. All right, these are the pie charts we were talking about. Again, like I say, we're sometimes a utility company that pretends to be a city, because most of it, if you see over the 5-year, in 2027, we're doing more enterprise projects than we are doing general fund projects. But over the 5-year plan, it looks like it kind of balances out. We do more general government projects than we do enterprise projects. So it's 50-50. We're kind of one of those. All right, then we're into the plan. Before we start, any questions about funding? What I like about this great spreadsheet is it shows on the one side is the expenses by year, and then on the other side is how it's funded by the individual types. And then I've even added this column about debt service. That would be the debt service payment. So if we did do the debt, anytime there's debt, there's going to be a debt service payment. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And we would issue the debt for the full amount, but the debt service payment is technically what you would be paying over whatever term I have in there. Some of them are 30-year debt, some of them are 10-year debt, but there is a plan. So with that in mind, I'm ready to start. Any questions? We got 108 to get through. Again, I'll only go over the yellow ones. So a new project this year, I'm gonna have our planning and zoning director get up and speak about this land acquisition fund. This is a brand new project that we talked about. I can kind of explain a little bit after her, but Jamie?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It has come up in the last few years that occasionally we have the opportunity to purchase a property, and Troy always has to try to find the money for that purchase. So this would earmark $250,000 per year. And once we work through the program, we'll know kind of an average of what we're spending, and we won't have to be moving money from other funds. It will not change the process. It will still come to the city council and go through our attorney to be purchased. This is just setting aside funds so that we have them available. And if a property does come available that the city is interested in, we don't have to scramble for the funds. With that, I will answer any questions.
We've been digging into contingency for a lot of those that popped up.
Troy's not happy with us when we find one.
So I would appreciate this project. There's a lot of advantageous purchases that come before you guys, and we end up digging into contingency to pay for them. I think if we had a more strategic project, $250,000 every year, there's other things that we could be doing besides what she's explained. I mean, there's tax purchases that we could be making on some of these projects. Have land acquisitions that need to occur before the project can kick off. So some of the things that slow down capital projects is land acquisition. So having this type of fund, if something came up in a tax sale, we could make that purchase quickly and before the project's even ready to kick off in 4 years from now. So again, we've identified certain areas of the city that if land comes available, we'd love to buy it at market or below market prices. We're not talking about above market here. We're not trying to make offers to people. But if there's an advantageous situation, we want to be able to have the budget set aside so we're not using contingency and make these type of purchases.
I think it's a great idea.
From an economic development standpoint, I thought this would be a great idea. Again, I see it as investment. We invest in tax land sales. If I put money against the tax land sale, if they end up paying their taxes, I get it back at some sort of rate of return, I think close to 19%. So these are advantageous investments to make at the same time. But we would really like to acquire the land before somebody else acquires it, that we end up having to buy it from them at a much marked up rate. So this allows us, again, the state of Arizona makes this difficult because all purchases have to come before you, so executive sessions talk about our buys, but we're gonna try to set aside this money and go ahead and make these purchases. So if you're not against this project, I thought we end up doing this anyway. I'm just officially putting it in a project for the very first time.
But at the tax sale, we're not actually buying the property. We're
Yeah,
just
so
buying.
you have to buy a few years of the tax sale before you can actually get it. So 3 years of tax sales turns into a purchase eventually,
Yeah, you
if they
have to-
don't pay their taxes.
You have to go through foreclosure.
But yeah, I see even making those one-time purchases as investments for the city. Sorry, Councilmember Flores?
But I was just going to ask, is the intent for that to be a carry over if we don't use it, or are you just every year
Every year, just
meeting
go away.
that?
Just,
Okay.
because we do about 250. If you look at our history, we've always bringing you strategic buys of about 250,000. Last year was large because we did the slab out on 170. But this is pretty typical of what we do anyway. I'm just officially formulating it into an official project. You know where the source of funds are. If we've already hit 250 for the year, then we can go to contingency. But again, I think Jamie brought me a great idea. She has someone in her office that does this in the county and does these type of strategic purchases. I think we could take really advantage of this. And in a recession, I hate to say it, but tax sales do seem to rise. So
Are we
isn't-
in a recession or not a recession? 'Cause
you'd
you
have to
said
ask the
both.
economists that, but yeah, our sales tax kind of shows some slowing. So a great time to acquire things when things are slow, right? Any other questions for Jamie? All right. Moving back, so library annex, you saw this backyard project. This, again, in my mind, is on hold, waiting for the fire station decision. Hopefully, Councilmember Ratner and Councilmember Arbizo are able to have their meetings sometime in April, once they formulate their side, and we can start having conversations. But I kind of see this one on hold because Public Works Yard 2 is one of the spots that we've talked about as a potential site. So I don't want to in any way hinder upon you, but we could possibly push this library annex out to 2028. It has carryover right now. It has money being added to it in 2027. If it needs to happen right now, that's your call. My call would be, let's let the fire station happen first. And if it doesn't, then let's put this in 2028. So I can push $280,000 out of the $57 million out another year. So we can kick this can one more time down the road, if you guys are for that. I'm here seeing a lot of nods. Sorry, Victoria. But Victoria does have the murals. This is one of the ads that why your previous packet only had 106. One of the ads is the mural. She doesn't believe she's going to be done by July, so we wanted to carry over that $40,000 just in case she's not done. We have the budget authority for her to finish up that project at $40,000. So that is definitely on the books, and we're not planning on moving that, right?
That project was at 25,000. She said, or we were not going to go over
I think
25,000?
she talked about 25, but she wanted 40 just to make sure. So she doesn't want to limit herself. Those artists are sometimes.
Okay.
Okay. See, just in case money. Just in case money.
I think with the library, since we shoulder most of the expense with the library, the more we add to the library, the more that cost goes up for us. So until we know whether the neighbors are gonna help us more in the coming years, I'd like it to be on hold too.
So great question. I mean, he's saying a very valid thing that we are the sole proprietor of the library. Should we be making this decision right now? Or should we push this one again until 2028 so we can have a conversation with our neighbors? That's a question.
Are you asking on the mural? Is that
On the
one?
Well,
mural.
Not the mural.
Oh,
the-
okay.
The little piece behind the annex,
Okay, so the mural's good though.
which that price seems to be a lot more than at the beginning, but I can see, you gotta put something in there.
And we want to make sure we have enough, but keep in mind, budget's not actual. We might end up spending less. We just want to make sure we have the authority so that we're not always coming back to you for budget increases. But the mural is good, right?
mural?
I just want to note on the annex, most of that will be grant funded. So we're already in talks with FMI, Arizona Complete Health. There's a T-Mobile grant that we could utilize, as well as United Way. So that would be, a lot of that would be grant funded, and we already have those partners interested in that project if and when it ever goes forward.
That's good news.
So
But
yeah,
I,
good point that I didn't, thanks, Victoria.
Yes.
We're only spending 35,000 of our own money on the 280. She has grant funding for $244,000 of it. Pushing it back to 2028 would hurt that? Maybe, maybe not. Well, we'd hate to build something and build a fire station on top of it, right? So- So I think 2028, if it doesn't hurt the grant funding, I still think we should push on that one. If everyone's, I thought was for that, okay, but the mural is still on. We're staying in this year and trying to finish it up by early next year. All right, moving on. So these are, one of these is a new project, the multi-band megahertz radios. So we just got informed in the last week or so by the police department that the county is moving to a different radio system, and so we would need radios that were compatible with that. We currently, I guess, have radios. They would need to be flashed, I guess, in the first year. So we put in a amount, I believe it's, where's my amount at? $160,000 to flash the radios that we currently own, so that they would be good for another 4 years, and then we'd be purchasing brand new radios in 2031. Radios' useful lives are about 5 years, and so the radios we just bought, it seems like on a grant in 2023, they would already be at their useful life by 2031. So we wanted to put together a capital project so we could start planning for that, but that is a new project we just added. Again, $160,000 would be coming out of general fund dollars for this flash upgrade. And then we would look to borrow from, Motorola has a lot of lease purchase agreements when we buy radios. We would look to borrow that next purchase in 2031. That would be part of that second bonding package that I'm talking about. The other one in there is the police impound yard. This came about in accreditation. I pointed out there were some deficiencies at our impound yard that they need to correct in order to meet accreditation standards. So 85,000, I believe, is to add cameras, even walls. I mean, Tyler can come up and explain it better.
So with the process that we've had with the accreditation, we had an auditor come in that goes around the state basically with ALEAP. We're going through the ALEAP process. And with that, evidence is a big thing. And he came down and did an audit, and I would say, I don't know that I would go all the way to deficiencies, but basically to bring us to industry standard and areas that we need for this accreditation, he gave a pretty good list of recommendations. And in that were some highlighted points of security for our evidence. Adding cameras to inside the building and the evidence room and strategic areas, putting up a new fence with the razor wire on the top, separating partitions in the evidence for where safekeeping versus evidentiary vehicles are stored, and then additional lighting, an alarm system, and I think that was it. It was a decent list, but all of the things that were recommended were basically what the industry standard are and what we need to do to come up to that.
You have some other items coming up that you're using the wording of accreditation to justify it. What does accreditation get us?
I think we'll talk about a lot of that in the operational budgets. I think they're looking to present on the 20th. I've asked that question already to the chief, and he's planning on addressing a lot of that during April 20th.
But are you asking us to okay this tonight before that?
This is related to accreditation, so if we move forward on CIP, if you don't want to do it in this year, you could push it out a year. We could take it off completely, but this is that same accreditation question that I don't think we're ready to address until April
Well,
20th.
if I don't have the answer yet, I can't make a decision.
So without that answer, what would you like to do tonight? Would you like to push the CIP waiting for that answer?
Yes,
Does,
Okay.
does this just affect accreditation, or is this affecting court cases? Are we fine in with how it is now?
I mean, it is, these are all areas where we can be attacked if we go to court. The accreditation brings us up to standards that have been proven across the state to help us prosecute cases and to just show, basically it shows that we are in line with what the best practices are in the industry. So it will definitely help us. All of the things that were brought to our attention were things that are in place at agencies across the state.
But it's not something we're getting dinged on as of right now, but we may.
Correct.
In some of the wording that you use for the accreditation, it, it says mandatory, and then it says, other places it says recommended. So if the state mandating that we make these accreditation adjustments?
This is not a state mandated. This is for our accreditation that we've been seeking. Those are the requirements. When I say requirements, it's a requirement for that. There are state mandated things that we are meeting. But like I said, we're seeking to do the best that we can, and improve to the highest standard. We kind of take pride in what we do. We have that exceed expectations in everything that we have, and this is one of those areas that we want to be the best. We tell everybody, hey, we're the best around here, and this is kind of our way to show we fall in line with those practices.
When they say mandate, I hope they give us some of the money that they're pushing it on for us. We'll see it later on where it says mandate, but
So what do you have right now?
What's your standard now?
No, what is your evidence yard look like right now?
So currently we have it's a pretty old gate with just a chain link fence, and we have a portion of warehouse with a roll up door that's separated off with chain link inside also. And that's just a portion of it out at the yard. We did the upgrade to our facility, and I think you guys got to see that, and it was great. It expanded, was much needed. It took us from one little small room with things packed in so tight that you couldn't walk down an aisle to where now we have the room, but there's just, again, small things that most other police departments across the state are already doing as far as security. When it comes to evidence, when we take it from somebody, we're completely responsible to show what happens to it in between the time we take it and the time we go to court. So all of these things that are being presented are just helping us to reinforce that and show that it is secure, and we're kind of up running at full speed, I guess.
People can just jump the fence right now?
So I think it may be a little tougher than that, but the things that we have of high value are currently, it would take a lot of work to get to them, but we may not necessarily know if they were doing that in the middle of the night.
I remember some cars just being parked out in the parking lot.
Sure.
That's not good.
Or for vehicle storage, that's what you're talking about. Yes. Yeah, that could happen in some cases of vehicles.
Yeah, so it does need an upgrade.
so later on, Captain, when we get to the spot where I think you're asking for a lieutenant using the same verbiage about accreditation, then we'll talk about that again.
Can that be a compromise? The accreditation subject is still on the board for April 20th. So as he explains better accreditation and why he wants it and why the department needs it, we can talk about that and move the CIP at that point. Does that sound like something we could live with? It's not guaranteed to stay right here in 2027, but if accreditation gets killed in the operational budget meetings, then we can talk about moving this. Okay? Is
That's
that
right.
something? So
That's
push this
right.
out, or I'm leaving it in 27 for right now because accreditation is still on the board. Okay. Thanks.
I have a question real quick because you kind of skipped over it. On the radios, you said if we push this part forward, then we're looking at borrowing 950,000, and you want that funding in 2031 is when you would do that loan?
Correct. That would be an actual purchase of brand new radios that have one feature that we don't currently have, and that would happen in 2031.
So things that are expensive now are going to be more expensive then. So is
We-
there a reason we're pushing that out?
The flash upgrade gets us using the system, so it's that extra feature that we would like to have. It's a nicety, but we don't need to buy it today. We can wait till 2031. But
Okay.
again, Motorola is one of those companies that the price goes up and up and up. So we hope that $950,000 covers us, but again, that's a good estimate that we have right now. 2031 will come and we'll see what the price is. I'm hoping I'm close.
And I think I got an idea, Councilman Bratner, on, when we wanted to go to other radios, say in Sierra Vista and stuff, when we made that search, we found out that there was a lot of weaknesses that we had here in the county that were serving our radios. And pretty much the whole county is going to need to look into different radios that are gonna work on this system, and, we're trying to get to that too, somewhat.
So since we've had a lot of those meetings, a lot of discussions open up as far as, what's best practice. The sheriff's office was in communication with DPS, who informed them that they're moving their 800 megahertz system here to the valley and statewide. So that opens up a huge advantage for us for public safety. And I'll go all the way down to the line level and give you a simple thing of one benefit from it. Of sometimes now, if an officer on the road keys up their radio, they don't know if they get out or not. There's nothing to tell them whether or not their transmission went out. If somebody else keyed up, they're going to be covered, and they could be in the middle of a bad situation. With this upgrade, there's one thing that comes in: you actually get a tone. If you're transmitting, you get a tone. It goes out. If there's two people at once, they both will transmit, just different times. So these are small line level upgrades, but in the grand scheme of things, it's huge for the officer on the road. So much better system, much better coverage capabilities.
So with them going digital, because DPS is going digital, are these radios going to go digital? The ones we currently have, will those still work?
So we are digital currently. We went digital with the county. This is actually an upgrade from that to what's called 800 megahertz. And so what we would do, these radios that we currently have are tri-band, so they can do VHF, UHF, and are capable of 800 megahertz. So what it would be is we would purchase the software from Motorola. They would come and flash each radio, and it would upgrade the radios that we currently have to take us to that next section where we would purchase again.
That explains better.
And that's 160,000 to flash them, and I can't really borrow for that because it's the same radio they currently own. So 160,000 has to come out of the general fund for that one. All right, are we good on that? Do we feel good about police moving forward? Okay, moving on. So facilities maintenance, before we go too far in, I'm gonna have Lance come explain these 3 new projects. Only one of them has money in 2027 to start us studies, but, so these have been rumored in the community for a long time. I'll let Lance break the rumors, so.
Well, I appreciate Troy giving me the big, expensive projects. I've talked to quite a few of you about some of these projects. These are basically discussion items that we can have tonight. Eventually, we're gonna have to talk about some new facilities. City Hall is very, very old. We've talked about the field house possibility north of our park property as a potential structure. Firehouse was brought up already, and also in the conversations, we talked about our municipal court building, which the courthouse part of it was built in 2014. The old house there, I think it's 30s. It's old. It's in need of some upkeep, and we share that facility with Thatcher and Pima. So whatever we would do there, we would talk about with them as far as shared cost on capital improvements. Now in the CIP there, for the municipal court building, I'm kind of proposing that one's in 27 and 28. The others are in 28, 29 for design construction. I would like to see that court be assessed, kind of like we did the fire station, have a company come in, maybe we spend $30,000 to have an assessment done. We've walked and done our own assessment of that building. Front door needs major help. There's some exterior stuff that needs help. It's an old building. But this cost in here is $230,000, and this is a finance director swag attempt to put a number in there, and we kind of work together on it. We don't know what that would cost. I would like to do an assessment. Maybe we push the 230 and the 2.3 million out to the same years as the other facilities, and discuss that with that. But I would like to do an assessment of that building just to see where it falls structurally and see what they kind of recommend. I honestly think we could do a lot to that building for way less money, but it depends on if it structurally can handle it.
If we're in joint with the other communities, are they contractually obligated to help pay for any of the updates or no?
Right now, they aren't.
Your
but-
contract ends next year. So this would be the upcoming, if we renew a contract with Pima and Thatcher, this would be in that contract discussion, right? That's why we want to get a number so that we can go into those discussions with how much we think it's going to cost. That's why I'm with Lance. Let's at least do the study so I can know a price. Whether or not I do that construction in 2028 or I push it out to that second bonding in 2031, we at least need to know before we go into contract negotiation with FEMA and Thatcher, what's it gonna cost to take care of half the building? Half the building is brand new courthouse. It's a perfectly fine, for the courthouse portion, it works. It's the other half of the building that
So
we've
is
been
the
using for
study
years.
gonna take 230,000, or can we adjust that number down to whatever the study's
Well,
gonna be?
that's what I was thinking. The assessment would tell us, kind of like the fire station, it would give us maybe we have them assess it and give us some options. What would it take to renovate the existing structure the way we would kind of look at the fire station? And what would it cost to, all right, if it's failing, tear everything down but the courthouse and build new structure on top of it. I think that's worst case scenario, but the assessment will at least give us some numbers to go to the county and FEMA or to the FEMA and Thatcher to talk about with the new contract.
And if Pima Thatcher are interested in 2028, I'd like to be able to start construction if they are, to talk about how we could split fund that. So I don't want to push myself to 2031 immediately, but that is an option in maybe next year's CIP to push it if we don't get any sort of conversation. But if they're willing to go, let's get the architectural renderings, let's get it all ready to go so that we're ready to do it in 2028 and move on it, because it's just a maintenance nightmare for Lance right now. He's spending more money to try to fix the place, to keep it running.
So the 230 would cover the architectural
We-
plus the study and
Like you said,
everything
the
else.
study might only be 30, 50,000, but if we can get to a point where Thatcher and Pima are willing to split the cost with us, then let's go to full architectural renderings, which the 230 would hopefully get us there of what that would look like, especially if it's a brand new building. So that's all we're asking for in 2027 is just, let's go look at that building and find out what our options.
I agree with you, but we also need to approach them to help with the assessment.
Yes, assessment would come first.
To help,
Um,
ask the neighbors to help with the assessment.
We can have that conversation. So are we good with the municipal building? I want to go back to the rec facility. I think this is a little too soon for Safford to put this in the 2028 bond. We just barely brought it up right now for the community. I think we should push this towards the 2031 bond. I know there was some ideas for the field house. We have some possible grants that were going to come through, and that's always a possibility. We could move it up sooner. But if we're going to pay our own way for this thing, I think 2031 is probably a better option, gives us 5 years to talk about it, or should we just take it off completely? This is the first time we as a staff are bringing this to you saying there's a need for a field house, there's a need for those type of amenities. We do run a basketball program, a volleyball program. We do rent the schools to do that. So we believe this facility would allow us to be self-sufficient without that, or add it on to what the schools already have. They're kind of at capacity for some of our sports. So we believe it's needed. Do you believe it's needed? Do you believe the community thinks a field house is needed right now or in 5 years? This is a deep one I'll leave with you. What's your feelings? I think it's a little too soon for 5 years I have right there.
I think it would be underutilized right now. It'd be used for maybe 1% of the population that does the courts, the volleyball, the basketball. I mean, if we came back and we could expand it, like I talked to Lance about adding meeting rooms that we could rent out to companies so that they could utilize that, being able to teach classes there, other things. But I just don't see putting us on the hook for 18 million for just courts. I think we would have to have something more that the community could use.
And I agree with Troy and you on this as well. As we open up that 26th Street corridor, we don't even have that connection across there yet. Give us a few years to get that opened up, get across Graveyard Wash, get the tie into the highway, get some development happening there, and then I think this will be, like Troy said, maybe that 2031 would be, we're ready for it. We'll have the property there.
Mhm.
Maybe some other things come up in that property while we're there. We've got other opportunities for grant projects. Eric and I met with a group that might even may possibly fund a hockey, outdoor deck hockey, which that surface could be used for pickleball court, volleyball. And it's a pretty cool facility, and he really thought we could almost get funding to do that. All you need is a slab of concrete. They'll put it up, and it's movable, so you could pour some concrete and move it eventually, and that concrete could be part of a parking lot in the future. So
We've got a lot of the residents that are begging for the same thing as Morenci has, that same rec center. So I would like to see something more
Rec
like
centers don't
that.
make money, right?
well, maybe we keep it on the CIP, but push it out to the end end of it a little bit.
I-
Look at that.
or do we push it completely off the CIP? But I think keeping it on the CIP at least allows us to apply for grants, saying that we're interested, we're willing to put in some of our own dollars to pay for it, but just not all of it, right? So I think push it out to 2031, still show it as debt funded. If grants come along over the next 5 years, we can fill in some of the holes. But is everyone fine with that?
I am.
2031. So
What about
not
City
even the
Hall?
design for it. So we won't even know a really good price for it until 2031. Okay.
The other one we took a stab at was a new city hall, basically. That's, there,
This is what AI says the building should look like.
yeah, that's not what it looked like, but obviously that's a big guesstimate right there. There's also the unknown of, where does it go? So there's a lot of unknowns with this. We just put it in that year for a discussion item, to see if you're interested in that quick or push it out.
So is there any appetite for this in the 5-year plan? Is there any appetite for it in 2028? It's not in 2027. We don't have firm dollars on it. It'd be nice to someday get a dollar so we know what we're talking about. But we have done studies in the past to add on to the current facility. I think we had a price for that back in 2016. This would be a brand new facility. We're not trying to resurrect the 1898 schoolhouse. So are we interested in keeping it in 2028, or is this a 2031, or take it off the plan? We're never going to build an admin building. They're very controversial.
2028.
So you would like to see at least pricing in 2028. That's all we're going to be able to get is pricing, what it's going to really cost. Whether you build it in 2029, that's still up in the air.
I'd like to push it further, seeing as we're trying to build a new fire station. I don't want to see us take on 2 huge debts back to back.
Okay, remember pricing is always advantageous when it's the sooner than later, right? So
I believe there was a small discussion about doing the fire station and city hall kind of together. Is that still an option, or do we not want to go that way?
I'd really like to know what the fire station is going to look like before we commit to this. So I think the 2028 timeline to know a price is good. Councilmember Bratner's idea of maybe pushing the construction out to 2031 so the community can digest it for the next few years. You don't usually get grants for this. This is one of a community, if they want an admin facility, you pay for it. But it's not for oftentimes people think it's for the employees. I mean, there's conference space that people can use. We have a lot of nonprofits. This is a building for the community. This should be a building that they can come and use, that they can utilize. This is not just for the staff that comes together. I mean, it would definitely help the city, bringing us together out of 9 different facilities. But yes, at least getting a price in 2028. Whether construction, keep it in 2029 or 2031 that Councilmember Bratner kind of threw out there. Let the community digest it for 4 years. Let the price go up every year $1 million.
I kind of look at, like Councilwoman Bowman mentioned, I thought it would be a tremendous hit. I wouldn't mind seeing the fire station and city hall. It's going to have to be done. City hall is going to, I go look for her. One of those days she's not going to be high level. Yeah,
Her chair's
it's getting
gonna-
to the point where it's dangerous now.
That's my retirement plan, Mayor. Just to fall through the floor.
So I'd hate to see us also put more money into City Hall, continue to put money into that. I mean, it needs to be repainted. It has a lot of things that it's lacking. So let's just keep the idea of designing it in 2028, not 2027. So this is a whole 18 months or so from now. As we get to the fire station, we can talk about this. As we get to the final budget, again, that fire station and that meeting that you guys are going to have, the two, is very important in getting that. The sooner the later we can get that answer, that can answer a lot of these questions. But at least we're going to keep this on the CIP. We're not just throwing it out right now. Okay.
Put it on the CIP. We're going to need it.
All right, parks, again, it's still Lance. The only ones I was going to bring up here, but is the city entrance monuments at the very PK 2501. We do actually, we moved away from the idea of doing those in-house. I think we're talking now with the JOC to actually get a third party to come together to do those. They're going to cost a little bit more than what we originally had planned. Again, the number we had before was kind of a swag.
Just
Right. Am I in street? Did I miss it? There it is, PK 25. I guess that's your sign.
Yeah, so I think I've talked to a few about this. Manager had me go out to our consultant, Kimley Horn, that's doing our park. They've given me some very rough designs for basically our entry monuments. The one that I really want to do is the east end of town where we bought the that little corner there where 8th Street ends at the graveyard wash. Because there's nothing really out there. There's a Welcome to Safford at the Circle K. There's nothing on that end of the town. The other one is there at Walgreens. You can't see it. I'd like to get rid of that one at Walgreens and move it a little bit further east onto right by that retention basin where we have a property. So these aren't big monstrosity looking signs. They're just Welcome to Safford signs, especially down by Walgreens. We don't have a lot of room. I'd like to do something a little fancier on the east end of town where we got more room. I'm gonna bring you something, maybe these concept drawings in a work session when we have time. I just haven't got to it yet. The cost we got in here was what's remaining in the carryover from what we had last year from not counting counting the design we're getting done. And then the 100,000 in next year's budget would be to hopefully do that sign on the east end of town and possibly the one by Walgreens. And we would do those as a jock project probably.
I think this question's for Eric. We've been working on changing the logo of the city, so would that take place with these new signs?
More than likely. And I met with the mayor end of last week, and he asked for a slight possible revision, so I'm working on that right now with the marketing company. And then I'll get that back to the mayor, and hopefully we can get that on an agenda for the entire council within the next couple weeks.
That's also kind of why I was delaying these monument signs, because we do want it, if we do rebrand, we want it to match our branding.
I thought we already had some signs built.
You're talking the downtown?
Yeah, those are different.
Those are
That's
different.
another project on here.
That's another project, but those signs are built out the airport.
Those are the downtown wayfinding signs that the Downtown Association basically got a grant through FMI to get those built. They're built, and I'm hoping to get one of those at least up before the end of this budget, and then I think we're carrying over some to put the others up.
So you want to move the sign further east of Walmart, not on the north side of the highway, where it's some of our property over there.
No, this would just take that sign that's behind the Walgreens sign. It's part of that retention basin. It's just a Welcome to Safford sign, similar to what's on the south end of town. Take that out because you can't see it. And then we own that little retention basin where you turn into Walgreens and Walmart. There's a little corner there. We could probably put a Welcome to Safford sign there. It wouldn't be very, very big. It would about the same size that we have on the south end of town with the new design.
Be the easiest way to go.
I guess, how do you feel about these signs in general? I mean, they're just signs. Thatcher does a pretty great job with their signs. I thought they pretty entertaining signs as you come into town. So, I mean, do you want signs? You don't have to have signs. People already know you already got to Safford, right? They kind of know you got there. So are you for signs, or is this a project that doesn't need to happen? I mean, I don't know if you guys are all, you don't have to do this. We just would like to rebrand, show our new logo, let people know that you've entered the city. I think people are confused about our boundaries. Some people think they live in Safford that are south of town, that you don't live in Safford, you live in the county. So
I like the signs.
signs, we're still good with them.
Keep in mind that we do have Stealth Auto had to build a Welcome to Safford sign. That's at our city limits right there at Discovery Park Boulevard. The one that's out there at the very south end of town, it's not even on our property. It's not on county property. It's on private property. So anyway, we're working on that. So whether it's us or the county, that's why I don't want to do anything with that one. We do have electric out there that we pay electric for the lighting on it. This whole project kind of started around us. We had the big white sign out there that was falling down. It was privately owned, had all the advertisement on it. And we got rid of that sign that had all the advertising on it. And there's really nothing on that east end of town welcoming people to Safford. And so this whole project started because I wanted to do something on that east end of town, on that property that's just sitting there where the old bridge across 8th Street is. And then it was brought up that some of these other ones, like the one by Walgreens, are very outdated. You can't see the one behind the Walgreens sign, so it's just nice to have something that welcomes people to town. So, would it be lit? Yeah, I'd like to get power to it. That's one thing I need to talk to Mike about. We had power to that old white sign, but I think the poles have been taken down, and we'd have to figure out how to get power over the wash over to it again and light that one up. Yeah, it's nice to light them up and be able to see them in the dark.
Taking the one down on the northeast corner by the Chamber of Commerce. That old H-frame
Yeah,
two-pole structure.
I'd like to get that one redone. That old wood one that's got the old signs on it.
Yeah, it's been in that shape for
Yep.
a long time.
Yep, I think,
So do you, I mean, this is an ad, you could add to this project. Do you want him to include that as one of the fixes? Most small communities have those signs where they put up placards for the Lions,
So it definitely needs attention. That's why they take it down if you're not gonna fix it.
it does represent the city and it is falling apart, but
it's on our property.
it is on our property. Do you want to add that? This is where you can add stuff. This is $123,000. This is not consequential money. Do you want to add it and make that sign be part of this? This would be a perfect project to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we'll go talk about some ideas for that are affordable and lasting long,
Just needs to be
instead of
redone.
wood.
With all them different clubs having some say in it, they gonna pony up.
I think their logo will be on it, but I think we got to create the frame, right? The frame is on the city, right?
I think the logo's
The frame didn't last, lasted the logos. Okay, so we're keeping that project, keeping it, it's 2027, $123,000, and we're gonna get 2 signs, and we'll add to it, and he'll give me a new number for fixing the Chamber of Commerce frame sign, whatever you call it,
Frame.
H-frame. Okay? And then this project I wanted to point out has changed. Before we used to call this the ball fields. We were talking about ball fields across from that field house on that same set of property. We'd like to just get across the wash. So first things first is let's build the road, and then we can start talking about grants, because we can't even talk about grants if we don't have access to the property. So I've changed this from, it's really not a parks project anymore. It's really just a road project, but it's just the road. We do have firm numbers. We did design that this year, $1.3 million, we believe. Hopefully the bids will come in to build this culverts across this dead man's wash, graveyard wash. Dang it.
It's culverts across the wash and then about 400 feet into the property, so full road improvement.
So this is the start of 26th Street going across 8th Avenue.
And
So
this
road
would
to
be-
nowhere for right now.
You could say you're building a bridge to nowhere. So if you want that headline, you've definitely named it.
This is the actual, what design you're looking at, them three.
Well, it'll be 5 pipes is what they've got in the design, 5 culverts.
Sorry, the
It-
AI wouldn't do
yeah,
5. I'd really like it if it looked like that.
It's
Yeah,
not a
'cause
bridge, it's culverts.
Okay, because I'm a little leery of them being too small. Had to redo the one in Ray Lane, Thatcher. They had similar culverts in there, and they couldn't keep them cleaned out.
Yeah, they've done a full wash analysis on this with the maximum flow going through there, and even have extra space in the pipe. So we had to go to 5 culverts as opposed to a box, because we are bringing the sewer from 8th Avenue, and we couldn't go very deep because the sewer's got to go underneath these pipes. So we had to spread it out a little wider. So that's a little bit of our controlling factor too, is having some clearance underneath it from the sewer to the bottom of these pipes.
So
But we do
how
have a
we-
90% plans, right, Jake? 90% plans, and this estimate come with our 90%, so that's, the plan would be to bid this next year.
This road would then cross over the walking path. What do you have in mind for that? Because we already have problems with crosswalks. How are we going to protect the walkers?
This would have a crosswalk there at the walking trail.
Are we going to leave this road closed
We
until
would
it
close
goes
this
through?
road, we would close this road where it's at now until we need to get access in there, so we would keep it closed, put up some, temporary barricades, basically to close it, even out at 8th Avenue if we wanted to. But the walking trail would have a crosswalk across it, and then we could put a pedestrian light there. When we do want to put it in there, we could do a pedestrian light.
Because
But yeah,
that's
there
one
would
of
be
the
a
major
crosswalk.
ways to get on the walking park is back there, right where that would go across.
Yeah, and
Some-
that has the ramps and everything are part of our design for the walking trail. Kind of veers out there and has a crosswalk across it.
So everyone for the idea of this road, this is you build it and they'll come, right? If you build this road across this wash, they'll come. We don't know who's gonna come, but somebody's gonna come.
But if we start it, I mean, it can still go all the way to.
All you're
First
going is
Avenue.
400 feet into the property, right? And then ending the asphalt, so it is really a bridge to nowhere. That's a good answer for it.
Eventually, it could go to First Avenue.
But this allows us to start applying for grants again for the field house, because now we have access. the idea of the baseball fields could come about. So this will spur the next 5 years of growth on that property, right? It could also spur development because we've got across the hardest wash that they have to get across. So it could also do that. So $1.3 million spurs development. Okay,
Can we go back to PK 1905?
I was trying to vote all those. Okay, PK 1905. The multi-use trail lighting.
Yes, we have it, we pushed it out to 2028. Last year, we pushed it out to 2027. Now we're pushing out 20. I would like to see this one maybe be pushed back up, or is there something we can
I just
do?
pushed this one out just because we're just overloaded on projects, and to get to this one, I just don't know if we can get to it. Well, this is one that we can do a jock project on if we wanted to, but this was one that I felt like we could push it out one more year and get some of these other things caught up and then get this one done. But this would be the lighting from our new park that we
Right.
plan on doing down to Glen Meadows Park.
Yeah.
So that in itself too, maybe we can get started on the big park and then tie this into the other park. I know you and I had the conversation about taking this across that Conquistador area,
Yeah.
which we could do. It's dark out through there, but that's all. I mean, we do have a right of way out there where our path goes, so we could do it. It's just anything we put out there could probably end up being redesigned as
Right.
if that happens. out
Yeah,
through there.
even if we could just do this part, I think it's important that, I've had some people let me know that they do use that walking path, and,
There
when it
are
gets
some
dark,
lights,
there's.
there are some lights along there, and those subdivisions, those intersections all have lights on the other side of Discovery Park Boulevard. So there is some lighting along there,
Mhm.
and I can get with Mike, I don't know, those are county lines along that path there, aren't they? So we can't really tap onto those, we have to run our own line in there, that's, at one point in time, I was gonna see if we could just put lights on some of those existing poles, but they're county coming across there, so.
So council members brought forward an idea of moving it forward. Is anybody else for moving this project forward?
You said that's county power? I didn't,
Coming on that side of. Right below the dam,
I thought that 69 was ours,
that's not,
coming from out in the desert.
So
I
the
think
question
it's
is, do
ours.
you want us to redesign this? Do you want us to go back, move it forward, talk about real costs, expand it? This could be an ad.
Solar lights.
Yeah, I was gonna say solar lights. They did that in Thatcher up on Ray Lane, all the way up and down.
put solar down there.
Doesn't the lights go off when the dark goes?
They stayed lit all night.
So there's some sort of battery on it, right?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I mean, do you want us to move like Lance said, we're guaranteeing $57 million. Do you want to add to that? Do you think this is necessary? The community wants this, doesn't want to wait 18 months? Does this need to get moved up? This is where the community speaks.
Where the
I don't-
park will be over there, and the path will get utilized, so I think it should be lit.
Can we wait until the park is built and then 2028 do it? Or do we need to do that in conjunction with building the park in 27? Because we'll be finishing up the park in 27, remember that.
I'd like to
Councilmember McGuire.
respect what Mr. Henry said. He said he's already overloaded and doesn't want to add more to his staff. So I really don't see a point of overloading them more.
And it's not a matter of my staff doing this, it's a matter of getting these projects out and getting them bid. And the JOC program is helping us do that, but we still have to process these projects, and it's just, to process that many projects is a lot of work.
Councilmember McGuire.
Yes, and that while we build a park, some of that in there is gonna be not usable anyway, isn't it? I mean,
So,
we're gonna have to.
part of our new park is we're gonna, some of those lights are coming out, and we'll get those back. So those could actually be used. They come to us, we can use those lights going down Discovery, reuse them. There's a few of those that are coming out, and then they're putting new ones in. I think there's 3 or 4 of them that are coming out, and then they'll put new lights in. But they
Say
will
we
come.
wait till the park's a finished project.
2028. Councilmember Flores, one last call.
Oh, that's-
Okay, 2028 it is. Again, I skipped over a lot of parks. Does anyone have any other questions about Reclaim Pond? We were going to do some improvements around the Reclaim Pond, making it a walking area. The chip seal around the cemetery roads. We have, again, funds coming out of the cemetery fund that would pay for this. This doesn't come out of the general fund.
The walking path, the walking river path is what you're talking about?
So the pond, the reclamation pond that we have down by the reclamation plant, he would like to turn that into more of a park feature that people could go and visit.
That's
Our
associated-
effluent water.
That's associated with
Want to
that
go sit by poop water?
Riverwalk
It's
project.
A+ water though. Jeff told me that I could swim in it.
It's not gonna be,
So,
that's not for fishing.
so that project's out in 29, and that's kind of associated. The Riverwalk project goes along there, and they develop that Riverwalk along there. Then we would do something around the pond.
That Riverwalk one, I think should get pushed out because that's another one of them we're not real sure about the cooperation from the rest of the community.
And that's why we have it in 2029. We want to see what the county's going to do. I
29,
guess
okay.
Steve can give us information
I'll
on
go
that.
with 29.
I have a feeling whatever we build down there is gonna get used for a homeless camp or something, and I really like to have a good handle on that before we actually do it.
Should we pull this project? Should this not even be in the CIP?
There's already a camp down there.
Multiple camps down there. We can pull it out until we find out what the Riverwalk's going, and then we can always bring it back in.
Okay,
So pull this project.
Yes.
We deleted one, yes. 29, you did it. All right. Any other questions on parks before we move on? Airport's the next. Okay. So with airport, come on. Airport.
yeah, where are you?
With airport, again, the most beneficial thing about the airport is you're putting in very little dollars of our own money and you're leveraging almost $13.2 million of federal funds. So a lot of this is just glorified asphalt projects, the specialized asphalt. I hate to say that at the airport, but there's a few things that I want to point out. So the airport project 2401, this would not be paid for by grant funds. This is the expansion. We are currently running out of space to build hangars. We have, what space we do have has already been leased. We have, if we want to have more tenants in the future, we need to expand the taxiway. Currently where we built our 10 T hangars, it would be expanding that asphalt behind there. We currently got the federal government to design it. It's currently in design right now. They believe there would be more design because it's just a preliminary design, but by the end of this fiscal year, we're gonna know conceptually how much it's gonna cost. We would have to add another $523,000 to that design, but building that asphalt for that taxiway is probably gonna be on the dollar of Safford. No federal grant will come in, but this is economic development. You're running out of space out there. So if you don't do this, you can kind of talk about the airport, but unless you do this project, there's no place for them to go. So this is where I've actually thrown in the idea of debt funding, $3.142 million, to actually just build the asphalt. That's all it does. It doesn't get you any sewer system out there, which is one of the questions that needs to be answered. Because right now they have to do septic fields, which take up a lot of space, but future economic development will be hinged on this project right here. So is the city willing in 2027 to push this design further and get ready for asphalt in 2028? Or is this a 2031 problem? Let's push this 5 years down the road or push it off the plan. The city doesn't want to expand the airport. You like it where it's at. The growth is the growth. There is no space that is not the runway right now.
Have we rented out all 10 of those hangars already? Are they all
Yes.
leased?
You have 27 people waiting on a waiting list for more T hangars. So there's definitely a desire, but T hangars, you don't make a lot of money. You lose a lot of money on. This would be hangars that we would hope that commercial development would come to the city of Safford, build businesses that have heavy industrial uses, and this would be the space for them. But they have to have aviation uses because they're on the airport. They're not across the street. There's another project where we're going to talk about, which is across the street, the business park infrastructure. That's across the street. We do have $100,000 to fund a little bit of asphalt work for that as businesses come on board. Again, that's not a bigger deal as this one is. This is what's holding up your airport for the next 5 years, is this plan right here. So where do you want to be at the airport?
I'm for 27, 28.
We want to put our own dollars, $3.2 million into the airport, because we believe it's an investment for the future. You've got a master design. You had that gentleman come from St. George that told you about what he did at St. George and that we're heading in that same direction. Again, we don't have an airport director right now. Are we ready to make this decision? We could have one by 2027.
I know what we think, but we couldn't even get our public to back giving them $1 million more for the air service. So I don't see them wanting to spend $3.1 million just for some asphalt. That money could be utilized elsewhere in the city. I
Yeah.
just don't see them liking that whatsoever.
Again, I show the debt service being $245,000. If you're able to fill all those spots that it shows in there with actual commercial hangars. So if our new airport director was able to find businesses that are willing to locate here, you could possibly cover the cost of that. But again, it's that, do you build it and they'll come? Or do you talk about it and then build it and then they come? So I think it's hard when they go to these aviation conventions to really speak about it because we don't have the infrastructure yet. So do you take the gamble and put it in? Or do you wait till you have a promise and then put it in?
But 3.1 is not building anything but a road,
But
correct?
it's roads. They would have to do all the electrical infrastructure, the water infrastructure. I think Cameron had the idea this was like a $30 million project that a developer would come in and take this over. A lot of airports are done by master development agreements. So that would be a possibility. But again, they're never going to build the road for you. That's one of those things that they expect the city of Safford is always going to be the road and they'll do everything else. But this could be a $30 million investment out the airport if you found the right developer.
Still going ahead with the 27.
So at least get design, better design so that we're ready to build that asphalt. Whether that asphalt gets kicked the can to 2031 or thrown off this plan completely. We'll see what the new airport director, how successful he is at this, or she is at this job.
Could we push this further and let him make the decision?
You
Once
could
we
do
hire,
that. So
if
we
they
could push
feel
it to
they need this?
2028, let them get their feet on the ground, let them go to some conventions, hear what they're saying.
Right.
So,
I want to see what you're going to say about the fuel
okay, thanks.
that before I make up my mind on this.
So yeah, we'll talk about it in totality. You're good. So yeah, moving on. So that one, possibly, it sounds like we were going to push this one. We don't want to make a $3.2 million investment without having an airport director that has a plan. Okay, so then moving on to the business park infrastructure. Again, this is across the street. By the way, thank you for your letters of support on this terminal. Again, if we don't have air service, it kind of changes the equation here. But believe me, it's space that could be used and utilized by the community. If we do get congressional funding, we wouldn't end up paying $2.4 million of our own funds. So, but this is the street. We have the street grid laid out. We've already, I think, graded for most of these roads. This would just be asphalt work as businesses come on board. We want to make sure we have $100,000 in the budget so we could assist in that asphalt work if we needed to. So I believe this one's a mild project that we could definitely $100,000 each year, never carrying forward. We're just planning on whatever, if something comes up, we have the budget. It's not contingency. We knew we were going to do it. We might build a road for a business that's willing to move in across from the airport. So not aviation use necessarily. This would be like a Bridgestone that we currently have or an N-Drip, those type of businesses. They have industrial use. They like the loudness of the airport. They just aren't aviation related.
And is there still some more water infrastructure we're going to be planning on out there?
So as we get down to water, you'll notice that we are getting fire infrastructure for the airport. That's one of the things that the tenants have asked for, and their fire insurance really requires. It makes it very expensive to do work out there without fire infrastructure. So there is an airport water line getting built this year. It's getting kicked off so that we will have the fire infrastructure to support the airport. We won't have the sewer infrastructure. And the water comes from the co-op. Where do we get it? Us. So, but we don't have, I guess we have the water infrastructure too that would be off that same fire infrastructure.
Big tank. You got a
So,
fire tank.
so we are getting that. So we have a little bit of ads, but again, let's hear that bigger plan from an airport director.
Is there any more interest out there?
Is there any more interest? Cameron was a very unique individual that he could find interest where there wasn't interest. There's a lot of people that call. But yeah, not having an airport director here right now to answer those type of questions, I don't know how serious people are. Cameron went to a lot of conventions. He did get our name out there. SAD, as much as it's sad, that's our acronym, SAD. So he got SAD out there. So there's a lot of SAD. So
I'd rather see something in town that we could focus on.
that's a good point. I mean, heavy industrial, you don't really get it too often. We're next to a mine that is heavy industrial. I could imagine that Freeport has businesses connected it, that this business park might be a benefit to. Again, those are all speculations. We don't know for sure.
Because the railroad's still speculation.
Yeah, well, they're not doing the spur, from my understanding. That spur is not happening across the road. That is no longer in the plans.
I can add real quick. So to your question, Jamie turned a business on to me that is coming into the area and working with the mine. And as we discussed the business part, his hangup was the fact that he cannot own the land out there, would have to lease it and build his business on that. So when that part of the discussion happened, that was a complete turnaround for him. So that's the latest update I can share with you from about 3 weeks ago.
Hopefully the pricing makes up for that, but yeah, that's one of the turnoffs about airport land is you'll never own it. It's always gonna be leased. So you have to have a business that's more in the idea of operationally getting something out the door and not owning future buildings, and because everything reverts back to the city after the lease term. So it's definitely a unique client, I guess. And it's one of those things that I think an airport director can give you better information on.
But right now, we want to get the asphalt in and the water and.
Well, like right now, I think we're pushing that $3.2 million project. I think the $100,000 is if somebody comes, we're not gonna go spend that $100,000. That's only if we have a business that says, hey, I wanna locate next to here, build me the side road, we can do that for them. So we at least have that infrastructure. Those are, it's not gonna be a full-fledged road. I believe it's just chip seal road. I mean, it's pretty basic. So, but yeah, that's just so if we do have somebody, we have the ability budgetarily to go for it and not do contingency. So at least it's in the plan. The next one I want to talk about is Commercial Hangar 2.
Mayor,
So-
point of order real quick. We are streaming this on YouTube. Can you guys please make sure to speak directly into your mic? It's very hard for YouTube audio to pick it up.
I feel like I'm talking, but it's not.
You can't hear it too good in here, but on YouTube, if you're sitting this far back,
But I
Can't
mean,
hear
I
any.
can kind of hear him, but I can't kind of hear him.
yeah, so just
Wonder
try
if
to
my
speak
volume's
directly
low,
into the
Mo?
mic.
Mo's gonna fix you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
So yeah, Commercial Hangar number 1, we do have PHI is interested in relocating from across the street on non-aviation to a more aviation central project. So you're turning me up. So yeah, it's good. I can stand back a little ways. So this is moving forward. This project is going out to bid soon, here in the next month. So our first hangar is gonna be up for PHI. We have a sort of a agreement with them. We're working on that.
Yeah, so Jason and I discussed this last week. Obviously, with Cameron leaving and John no longer with the city, I wanted to reach out to them and just see where we stand. So I've received a response from their point of contact today, and we're going to schedule a meeting later this week to make sure we're all on the same page.
So this is upfront investment that eventually we will get back in the form of leasing from them. So it's gonna take 8 to 10 to 12 years, but this is, we build it and they came. So the next one is hangar number 2. The idea again is, do we build it before they come? So you build a basic shell of a hangar. Thus, it's a little bit more entertaining at these conventions to say, we already have the space for you. You just come in and modify it, or do we wait? And that's where I think I'm getting the answer of, we're gonna wait. Because this would be, again, borrowing $1 million, $1.1 million in 2028 we don't have no clients signed on. Let's get a client, and then we're willing to entertain the idea of entering into debt for it if we do get a client. But let's push this to the 2031. Let the airport director do his or her thing, and then we can figure this out. So airport hangar number 2 is not going to be in 2028 as projected here, or even design in 2027. We're going to wait. Okay? So we're saving there. Okay, then as Vice Mayor alluded to, so we are in the fueling business at the airport. Steve?
I was just curious if $100,000 is realistic. Can we help somebody if they said, I want to come today?
So we could
Or
use
could we-
contingency and do the project anyway if we had that kind of commitment. It wouldn't be on the books as an official project until we did that, so.
Are we utilizing they're not called DOC anymore, but Department of Corrections
For,
for like to help out with the road and all that, like we did in the
Right now, the only plan we have for the Department of Corrections is at the golf course. Because of the staffing and the time that it takes to monitor the inmates, the golf course was kind of our one option, and that's where the DOC would actually come in and provide their own staffing at the golf course. I don't even know if that one ran into a stickling of
No, I
Troon
think-
is not a private.
I think you're
not-
asking about the pavement crew, which will
Oh,
be
yeah,
Yeah,
separate.
the pavement.
Oh, yeah. I guess we could always, instead of a chip seal road, the pavement crew could come out and do a more official road on the $100,000 project.
The last conversation I had with DOC on the paving was their paving equipment is in Florence and possibly being sold. So we may not have the option of using the DOC paving crew anymore. I've yet to hear back from them. I told them, I hope we get them back. We'll use them if we can get them back, but I haven't heard back from them. But the infrastructure in here, we put a bunch of millings down out there, kind of graded out some of these roads and put millings down, and that 100,000 he was talking about, just finished putting millings down and chip seal one development goes in there. So 100,000 doesn't get you a lot, but it gets you a lot of chip seal. So I think Cameron's idea was to try and spend that 100,000 every year and get all those roads kind of blazed in with a chip seal road, but it may not make sense to put them all in there unless you've got people coming in to develop business on it. So that's kind of like Troy's idea. We'll do it as they come.
Going back to fuel, again, we're in the fueling business. That's one of our major revenue sources for the airport. Leasing is the second major airport revenue. So again, the infrastructure that we have there is aged. Even when we acquired it from Ponderosa, I believe it already had 20 some odd years on it. So the fueling infrastructure is poor at best. We need to start talking about replacement. Fuel is what we're going to always be doing at the airport, I hope, is one of our revenue streams. So are we willing to invest in a better fuel system? Again, this is a little grandiose from AI, but it's not going to look like this. But $1 million can get you kind of what you have right now, maybe at a better location. Again, it's using up prime property on the airport, our current fuel island. So relocating those, putting those where a plane can get to them without having to taxi all the way to the terminals area to get fuel. Again, we could locate this off the airport and bring fuel to them via the truck so that we're not using valuable aviation space and open up space on the airport. I think the first thing we should do is at least get a design for this so we could get a good dollar amount. So at least spend the $100,000 of general fund dollars to get an answer on where and when we should put this in. Maybe they say, wait for 3 years and put it in. Maybe what we have is sufficient. We've done a lot of repairs to the current facility. Maybe they don't tell us that. Maybe they say, hey, you need to get this stuff out of the ground as soon as possible. So I'd at least want to know $100,000 what we should do, get a professional answer on that, and then whether or not we move forward, that could be a decision that we make later in 2027 or in 2028. So I would at least push the construction to 2028. Sounds good? I believe is fuel. Do you understand that fuel, I believe, is a necessity out there that we shouldn't pass up the opportunity to fix this facility? Okay. Vice Mayor?
Yes, I want to be able to give that tool to the next director.
So I will push the construction on this, but at least $100,000 to go with the new airport director to find out where this thing should look like and when it should look like. When?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All the rest of the projects, like I said, are grant funded. It makes sense to do our 5 to 2.5% of each one of the projects, and the state and the feds will cover the rest of the project. Again, this is what keeps your airport viable. So I would at least suggest keeping our $2.3 million of general fund in on those projects, and we'll push out any debt until we get an airport director here. So 2031, and unless it's designed for the fuel farm, I'll keep that one in. Sound like we're in agreement on that one? Okay. Anyone need a break? Okay. Golf course. So we've changed a lot at the golf course. When we sat down and talked about the golf course, we had a lot of plans in last year's CIP. Golf cart barns, all sorts of things. And I think as I sat back, I just said, we need a bigger plan of what we're going to do at the golf course. We're putting in a driving range right now. The facility is from a 1950s building. The barns are in horrible shape and they really need to be demolished, but do we bring them back? These are all deep, dark questions that I don't play golf. I don't know. Eric I think, was under the same agreement that we need an expert to come in and tell us what should the facility look like for the next 10, 20 years, so that whatever we're doing, we're not stepping on our own toes. So should there be a new clubhouse? When should there be a new clubhouse? What should we do with the golf cart barns? What should the maintenance facilities? We have over 16 pieces of equipment that cost about $1.7 million that we just leave out in the sun. And we wonder why they don't last for 5 years. So we need shade structures. The weather in Arizona really kills a lot of our equipment out there. So all these questions, we want to have answers. We just don't know where to do it and what's the best thing for the golf course over the next 20 years. So I would like to spend the $100,000 just to find that answer out. And that's the master plan. You'll see the very last project, golf course 2701. That's the big question, is where should everything be? When should we replace it? It's aging as much like those other facilities that we talked about for our general employees. The golf course is showing its age. So are you interested in that? That's a new idea. The irrigation system is on here. It's been on here in the past. It's come and go, comes off the plan, it goes back on the plan. I do believe we have a solution through our wastewater funds. And if we're going to contribute effluent dollars for the golf course, we could pay for this using that funding, because we believe it's about $500,000 that the general fund would contribute for effluent that it gets every year. That could cover the debt to cover this project. So we could move forward on a $5.2 million borrowing. Again, WIFA would be the source of funding. They do offer low interest loans if it's connected with our effluent plant, which it would be. So we'd like to move forward on this. We have a lot of ideas. If we want to add any more effluent customers, we believe we need to do something, because right now the system is built for basically the county and the golf course. So if we want to have the future of EAC, one of our biggest water customers, to ever come onto effluent, locating tanks at the golf course would allow us to do that, effluent tanks. So that's probably going to cost more than $5.2 million, but all we're asking for in 2027 is to get together that plan. We believe we lose over 100 million gallons of effluent water through evaporation or seepage into the ground. So we don't even get to irrigate. We just lose it because we're piping it up to ponds and they just sit in the sun. So we believe we can better use our effluent, which could allow us to water our parks that we're bringing on board, which could save the city money in the form of effluent. So all that it all hinges on this project, $5.2 million. It is possible to be funded, but it requires the general fund to contribute and pay for effluent for the golf course, which it has not done. This will be the first time we'd be adding that. 540 million gallons of water that we don't charge for. Again, coming up with funding sources for effluent is one of those goals too. So how do you feel about this one? I keep talking. I feel like I'm selling it to you.
I like the idea of the master plan. I think it's a way that we could also maybe reach out to other funding sources like United Way, Freeport. You know, the golf course is at the home course for EAC, for Stafford, Thatcher, all the high schools. You know, they do tournaments there for the, kids. They do a huge summer camp for the kids. There's a lot of things happening over there that I feel like we can reach out to.
And a master plan would allow people to see the
Yes.
vision of where you're going.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
you as a council would weigh in on what that vision looks like for the golf course.
So we're gonna be paying ourselves.
Well, she's talking about the master plan, first of all. So
Okay.
are we for the master plan?
Yes.
Yes.
Or should we try to come up with it ourselves? We'll just wing it and we'll just come up with an idea for the golf course.
Master plan.
I just wanted to, for sure. All right. Cameras at the golf course, you know why this. We've had a few break-ins. It's cost us money. So we want to have the ability to continue to add cameras around the facility. How do you feel about the irrigation system? This is 1970. I wasn't even born when they started talking about this irrigation system. So what do you feel? I mean, you'll break the 30 some odd year drought of no irrigation system.
The longer we wait, the more it's gonna cost.
And again, what I've told you is probably more than $5.2 million, but all we're asking for in 27 is to design. Come up with a design that's gonna save us 100 million gallons of water. That's what I'm asking for. You think it's at least that? And then if we have to push the debt, we can push the debt. But I think, like you said, the pricing is, if it's advantageous, let's take it. Let's finally fix the golf course. Maybe they'll give us plaques.
I think if you have the design, you'll find you can put in that irrigation here locally.
course, it's not a complex project. It is,
No.
we don't want to see the golf course down for a long period of time, so we want to get it done quickly, whatever we do. So it's, again, revenue sources. And again, as we do that master plan, I hope we focus on what future revenue sources we can have out there at the golf course so that we're not having to subsidize it as much. Okay, so I'm keeping the way it is right now. But again, those are all choices that the council can make as we move forward towards the final budget. I do have the fire chief here, and he's waited the whole night to talk about this. So I'd like him to come up and explain his fire upgrade facility. We do have money in carryover, but there is future grant dollars that he's still seeking.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is project carried over from last year. We did get some grant funding last year, about 200,000 from United Way. That's going to start this going. So that'll get our classroom, multi-purpose classroom done out there. And we'll be working this year on getting more grant money for the burn structure, the 3-story training structure for it. So you guys have any questions about that? Thank you, buddy.
Don't leave yet. Stay right there. So as you talk about the fire station, the two that are, this could be a possibility. The district is very interested in this facility. This provides fire coverage across the river. So as you talk, just know that we have plans to at least make it fire training facility, but they could have other plans that you could possibly utilize that. So I just want to make sure you're aware, we have a facility on the other side of the river that we'll have fire trucks there. And it could possibly be a solution for the district. So just keep that in mind as you go through that. So,
And do other fire departments utilize that place?
Yes, this is it'll be a regional facility, so Thatcher and FEMA use it right now, and I'm working with the fire chief over in Thatcher on their budget process on helping with some funding moving forward on this. So
Thank you.
there's a little hang up last year, but we should get it through this year.
That's another one of them, chief, that cooperation with the rest of the community kind of hinges on that a little bit too.
Yeah, we get along pretty well with the other fire departments, so.
Patrick could be a really good symbol because I think he did have Thatcher and Thatcher Fire District on board with helping.
Correct.
So we've got some cooperation.
Good.
And we have a FEMA council member here tonight that could change that cooperation, FEMA. Okay.
Funds that
He's
you're
IT
asking
tonight.
for in 2028, am I correct in that you're only needing 20,000 for 2028? The rest is fully grant funded?
Okay, so last year we from our budget we put 150,000 in, which was 75,000 from the district, 75,000 from us. So with the 200,000 that we got from United Way this year, with our match to it, it's carrying over what we already allotted out of last year's budget. So us between the city and the fire district, we're not putting any more money into this project. The rest of it's either going to be grant funded or money donated from Thatcher and FEMA and other organizations.
Out of that 1.4 million that's showing in 2028?
That's 100% coming from
Correct.
either a grant or somebody else, not the city.
Okay.
Correct.
And that would only move forward if we got that grant. So you have applied for 2 grants.
Yeah.
So we're still trying to hunt for the
I
money
mean,
on this one.
we're putting the 20,000 in as part of the match, but that's, like I said, that's carried over from the 150 we committed to the overall project last year.
Yeah, us and our fire district have committed to our full part of this project. So we've done our part already.
All the infrastructure you need's already built? We add more water, power, anything else gonna cost us?
No, we'll be good.
And that should be going out to bid, that actual training classroom this fiscal year, right? Whenever Jace finally gets to work. Okay. All right, so then fire station, again, any questions about this? We did have a meeting. We discussed that. We're gonna send 2 of our delegates against their 2 delegates. So I would, on this one, Patrick really took it to heart when I said that it's gonna cost $1 million every year we wait. So he wants to do construction in 2027. I would say let's push construction. Let's just focus on getting architectural full renderings for 2027. So thanks, Patrick, for being so aggressive, but let's push $11 million into 2028. So it's really just getting architectural. So we got to find a spot and then we can design a building to that spot. And we have $1.1 million to do that. Is that something that we can commit to? Tell Patrick to be a little less aggressive on this one. Trying to keep the ball moving. So yeah, just $1,000,001 is what I'm asking for in 2027. The rest of it we'll push out to 2028. Again, we're going to issue debt for this, which will help the district as you go through those conversations. We think it's $750,000 to borrow the $12.1 million. So half of that would be $375,000. That is a pretty big jump for their tax rate. I'd also like to propose as we get further down and we get more answers on the fire station, the idea of raising our primary property tax. Primary property tax right now is paying for our police station. I think a great thing would be the police and fire station. Police station's about 200,000. If we make that 375,000 on top of that, we would have to raise our rate for the next 2 years. But your primary property taxes usually go for police and public safety facilities. So it's a great thing when you're talking about primary property taxes to raise. But right now, we don't have the capacity to raise up that quickly, so we'd have to make gentle steps over the next few years. But what we're asking, I think, is an extra $13 from our citizens every year for the next 3 years. So I just want to keep that conversation open, that I'd be looking to pay for this debt with primary property taxes.
That's not the tax levy rate.
What do you mean by the tax levy?
Every year we either,
Yes, it is that.
it is that.
So instead of coming back with a flat tax rate, I would tell you, let's increase that tax rate to a acceptable level so that we can step up over the next 3 years and afford to pay this debt when this station's finally built. And then the debt will be paid for over the next 30 years by primary property tax for both the police station and the fire station. The police station gets paid off in 2034. This would get paid off in 2058. So just something to keep in mind. I think it's a great chance for primary property. Everyone always asks, what do primary property taxes? Public safety is a great thing for primary property taxes. So who pays the most of it is actually commercial. It's not residential. So people like Walmart, your big businesses would pay for a lot of this fire station if you did primary property tax. So I got you on board and now we're all scared and we don't want to build a fire station anymore.
You'd have a better idea of the percentage you're talking about when.
I'll bring it forward. I just want to broach the idea that I will be giving you 2 options this year, not just a level tax levy. I guess 3 options. You could go drop it based on the assessment to whatever, or you could level the rate, or you could start saving for the fire station debt.
You're talking about doing that here in a couple of months?
We'd have to start that process in May. So that's what I need to know on the fire station is what are we doing and is it $12.1 million? I guess I won't know that by May, but again, where you decide to put that fire station could affect this cost. So, all right. So Patrick already had planned for 800 megahertz radios. So he's keeping this in the years 2027 and 2028. We're starting to make these purchases. This is the same thing that's affecting the police department is also affecting Patrick. This would allow him to get on the state's system and allow us to use radios for fire. So we already were in the planning for this. This is not a new project. And then SCBA's, again, not a new project. They're about a 15-year useful life, and we had this in the plan, so this is not new. Any questions about fire before we move on to streets?
Can I ask, back on the station,
Okay.
when you said $13 per resident the first year and 13 the second, and are those compounded?
Compounded,
Is it
so
13.26?
13.26, yeah.
So you're going to add $39 to every tax bill out there for the next 30 years.
Correct, and I think it might help in your discussions with the fire district. One of their things is they feel slighted by the fact that they have to raise their tax rate to pay for their portion of the station. So if City of Safford did the same thing, I think we could all be on the same footing. You don't feel slighted anymore. We're raising our primary property tax, they're raising their property tax.
That makes me feel a whole lot better about raising taxes.
Because we're all in it together. But yeah, it's just one of the conversations that I've had with the fire district. It's just one of their talking points is why do they have to raise their primary property tax to pay for it? We can do it too. And I think it's a great idea, to be honest with you. It's a great way to fund those type of infrastructure items. But you can think about it.
Troy, I don't know if Dusty's got with you, but does the citizens pay for the fire district also?
So it's very confusing when you look at the tax bills from the county. There's a fire assist levy that is paid for by everybody. We believe that's debt issued by the county for some sort of project. We believe a dispatch project back in the day. Everybody pays for that, but that's not the fire levy. The Safford Rural Fire District is paid for only by people outside of Safford City, the city of Safford. I said it backwards. So it's just 17,000 people that pay that Safford Rural Fire District. It ranges anywhere from $200 to $600 per property. So, and in order for them to afford this, it would almost have to double their rate. So some people would go up to $400 and some people would pay $1,200 a year. So
Is it based on property? Because I own property right outside by the fairgrounds and I don't have that on my tax bill.
shouldn't tell anybody that because everybody's supposed to be assessed in that district. It's one of those places, fire districts are very unique to Arizona. You don't get a choice on whether you get to pay. Everyone gets assessed. So I don't know how you're able to
So
do
is it a
that.
set rate that each property is assessed?
It's $2.40 on the LTV of the property. So whatever your LTV is, you should be being charged $2.40 per 100.
Okay.
That's what their current rate is. Again, they would have to, their only source of funding is that, so they have to increase their rate pretty dramatically in order to afford their portion. So just keep that in mind as you're talking with them.
That have to get voted on?
By them, well, their 5-member board does vote on it every year.
Okay, they vote on, the public don't vote on the raising of that tax.
We're not quite sure how the fire district people are elected, so I think you're self-appointed. So yeah, you can get into that with them, but again, it's a tall order to ask the kind of increase that they're looking for. They have to almost double in order to afford $375,000. So just saying that we have some options on our side. Like I said, the debt, we have primary property tax. Where we locate this station is all about the cost. But it sounds like we're willing to fix this 75-year-old problem.
No, I'm saying, I thought we could raise ours a certain percentage without having to go out to vote on it.
Oh, there's a maximum. It only allows us to go up 2%. That's why I can't do it all in 1 year. Our levy is so small, we only do 51 cents on 100. So I have to slowly increment ours in order to get to that level in order for us to fund 375. They're a little bit different because they're already $2.40 per 100. So yeah, I can explain that as we get further down the line, but I want you guys to have that conversation and that knowledge that that's what they're facing. So
I think what you're asking is, so the fire district can raise their tax 0.2% every year without sending it out.
Okay,
for
yeah,
vote.
that's what I was
If it
asking.
has to go above that, then they have to put it on the docket. So they got just a little bit smaller increment than we do, but that's the max they can raise it without voting on it. Vice Mayor.
Okay.
and if I do get invited to those meetings, I can show they have cash on hand that they could slowly increment up so it's not a dramatic all at once increase that they would have to go out to the voters for. So there is a way. If I get invited to the meetings, I can explain that to them. So first, have a conversation on where you want to put the fire station. Okay, any other fire questions? Sounds like we're solving big problems here. I mean, this 5-year plan, we have 1970 irrigation system, 75-year-old fire station, you guys are solving problems. Okay, moving on, so streets, or sorry, internal service funds. Again, these are paid for by the various funds that they serve. When we talk about IT, I wanted to, well, let's cover the warehouse. The warehouse, we have an issue with wire reel. So we have a lot of wire because we run an electric system. That wire gets left outside right now. We don't have the proper storage for it. So what we would like to do is construct a half barn type entity. Did I miss it already? Did I go streets first? I didn't even follow my own order. Oh, I didn't. Sorry, we'll skip through streets here and then I'll come back. So here's our internal service fund. So this wire reel storage shade structure. So this is $110,000 to build some type of structure that can house our reels outside of the weather. This allows that to stand up to the test of time. So we don't use wire all at once. We store it over time. And again, if we don't keep the reel in working order, then it just becomes a mess out there and we end up wasting a lot of wire money. So we believe as running an electric utility, we need to have some sort of storage like this, and we have a plan for putting that in 2027. So as long as no one's against that idea, we'd like to keep that in the CIP. This is the one ask from warehouse. Moving on.
Is just the top sufficient? Don't you need?
Well, stacking and how you put those reels so you can actually take them off, they're heavy. So you have to build some sort of structure that can hold the weight and then allows them to get it off conveniently. So again, this is how AI rendered the whole idea. it might look a little bit different, but again, the idea is to get the reels out of the sun and out of the rain. So they're not weathering every night.
And you're talking about your reels, not, because I don't see us having this kind of wire in that volume.
Nobody builds these type of structures, so we'd definitely be the first to build this type of structure, but we believe that we can figure out an idea. Jace and Mike have thought about it. They can come up with an idea that's not this.
No, it's not that.
Is
But
this
it's-
an internal
That's a
build?
pretty little picture, but that ain't it.
No, we would have a third party that would build the shed. I believe the internal structure would be a third party welder who would put the work together for us, but we would design it. Jace would do the lion's share of the design of this. Yeah, okay. No objections to that? I believe it's a needed thing. We've needed it for quite some years.
So you want to cover your reels. Okay.
All right, so again, there's the big meter project. This is ongoing every year. We're gonna use some of this funding possibly to talk about operations of AMI and adding some more staff there, but I'll talk about that more on the 6th of April. One of the projects I wanna get to in IT buys a lot of very expensive stuff. A lot of this stuff has always been in the plan. They always try to keep a 5-year listing. I think what the audit brought this year is the idea of additional city hall security. So if Cade wants to come up and explain this project.
Mayor and council, good evening. When you talk about security, there's two aspects of it. There's the virtual or cybersecurity side, and then there's actually the physical side of security. And part of our cybersecurity audit that we had that we updated you on, part of that was our physical security at City Hall was lacking. The fact that you can get into our IT office, granted, thankfully, we are right there by our server area, so we can monitor it. However, due to their findings, we need to be able to keep a log for ingress and egress inside of our office as well as the server room. In case something does happen, we know who was in there, when they were in there, and why they were in there. And so we are going to expand that through all of City Hall. And so every door, indoor and outdoor, will be electronic and key access. It helps with turnover, it helps with security. Right now, trying to get keys back from employees sometimes is a little bit difficult. I think they have hip problems because of the weight of the keys that they have to carry with how many they have. Just having one key card access that we can easily disable with a click of a button and then they don't have access is pretty simplistic. And so part of that cybersecurity audit, we're going to be redoing all of security doors, indoor and external doors in City Hall.
Are you
Questions?
talking at the stairs?
So the whole facility, so what we have in budgeted right now will cover all of City Hall, external and interior doors.
But what I'm saying is like keeping people from going upstairs.
No, that would be something different. It's something we could look at for sure. And if we have this in place, it'd be easier to implement. This is just for even staff to be able to come into the IT office, to be coming into the server room. All that type of access should be audited and logged, and presently it is not.
So you're just talking at every door right now.
Mhm. But if the brains and everything are in the system already at City Hall, something like you're envisioning would be doable.
So this wouldn't be like it shows on the picture, right, with the phone, with all the phone hackings going on?
You could, it has that capability, to answer your question. It'd both either be NFIC cards, like a card to access, or an app on your phone that would click and log in.
Would our really cool, expensive ID card machine work for that?
It can.
Awesome.
It's the media,
bring
it's
up
the
that
media that
machine.
you're printing it on. It's the
On
media.
social media go out crazy again.
I know, it's, again, printing, it's just a printing machine, right? And so whatever media card you feed it, so one that works with the security system that we're putting in, you could easily print on top of it. Good question.
I could see you wanting to secure your stuff from everybody, but no key works good for me.
It does until it doesn't, right?
Yeah, till they lose it, how many keys we losing and having to buy, but I don't see it.
It tracks like who goes in and out.
And again, this is from the cybersecurity firm that audited it. They said, base level, for sure, your server room and IT infrastructure, but if you want to be to CIS standards, then you should do your whole building.
You say you're no longer gonna need every year to have to buy a new program for it and stuff, I think it read.
Correct. IT is always fun, right? You buy something and they say, we're gonna support you forever until they don't.
Yeah.
But with I do believe with what we have in place, if, worst case scenario, the company that we're thinking about using decides we're not gonna do that anymore, the guts are there and we can find something else similar for very cost effective. The most expensive part is getting the infrastructure in. And working with some of the people we've worked with, they actually use surgical tools to run these cables through doors and stuff like that to get it installed. And so that's majority of the cost, is the labor.
Are we for this project? This is a brand new project. Again, I think it addresses an IT need that we found. Any feelings, Councilmember Floyd?
Does this stuff transfer to a new city hall if you
Sure.
The brains, I
build
guess,
one?
would, right? But again, you'd have to make sure the new city hall was built to some sort of standard that can integrate into it. We believe that this project will also help at one of the sewer treatment plant projects, the gate lock infrastructure. We believe the brains could be used to make that project work too.
And with anything in IT, we're future planning, right? And so if we start with City Hall, it would be my goal to implement all the buildings for the same access. And so it's all card accessed.
My dress pants will appreciate it. I tore up many.
This one does 16, so when we go to add them, then we're gonna have to, the cost comes in?
The cost again will just be for the labor, and it depends on how intensive the building is. City Hall is a little bit more difficult because it's an older building. If it's open, granted, maybe the library is not a good example, but different areas that have different structural necessities would cost different. City Hall is a little bit more expensive because it's an older building. Yeah, please aren't busy, but
Are we for this? Are we not? I mean, I want to address those IT audits. I don't want to put it off. So this is in 2027.
I think it's important.
Any other IT projects? Will we have Kate up here?
happy to address anything.
We'll talk about databytes and gigawatts.
Most of the IT stuff I read other than this seemed logical to need. The
They were
needs were
same old
logical.
projects, so nothing new there except for this one. Okay, any other issues? It's, again, not a major project, not a major fund, but $6.4 million gets spent through the internal service fund, so it adds up over time. A lot of it's my AMI project, so I'm $5 million of that.
Real quick, just for some clarification for Vice Mayor, we had an incident where there was an individual that just helped themselves to walk upstairs, walked into some offices, walked right out, and we not once even knew who the gentleman was. He looked possibly homeless. We don't know. He said he was there for, what was it? Something alien related.
Yeah, it was off the wall, but
Yeah.
having it open to access as much as it is does bring a security risk.
So a key is good, a key does lock, but nowadays we need more security, just the access. And I'm grateful Kate brought this in because we do get some random people that walk in through the back door of City Hall. Because again, it's just open. I shouldn't say that in a public meeting, but
You don't need a key, you need a Louisville.
a what?
Louisville
Small
Slugger.
bat.
I don't think that's in our insurance policy.
All right, we got a lot more to get to. Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.
All right, moving on from internal service funds, back to streets, I guess, where I missed everything. All right, on streets, I wanted to cover 1901, so let's go there first. All right, so this is the 14th Avenue, 24th Street. This is the High Line Canal going over that. We would like to get a concrete number. We believe this holds up the development of El Conquistador, not knowing what the sewer infrastructure and the road and everything is just gonna cost. The project would still not be done until 2031, and I believe I have that as debt funded out in 2031, maybe not. Yeah, it's debt funded. So again, I wanna get a good price for this project. It's been all over the scale of what this is gonna cost, but $100,000 in right now to actually find out that cost of that project is what we're looking for. Is that something that we want to do? Is that on anyone's radar? 14th Street over the High Line Canal.
Are we even able to get the El Conquistador owners to do anything?
14th
Because
Street?
they're all on the tax lien list.
So that's why we brought Jamie here tonight to give you an update on that. Because that's one of your questions that you asked about El Conquistador. Do you want to give some sort of update?
You said, you've been saying street, and you've been,
This is the street portion, but she's here to talk about El Conquistador, the land portion.
Yes, good evening again, Mayor and Council. I've asked this year that we look at projects like this to enable the things that we're trying to do. When I got here 4.5 years ago, we realized this subdivision has sat since the 1970s and previous staff has tried to work on it. We want to get access to this subdivision so that we can work with the owners. I have a map that I sent Troy. There's so many owners. And without the possibility of getting utilities through there, it's just prohibitively expensive. And so we're trying everything we can do. We've worked with attorneys, we're working with engineers. We really want to shake that loose, and it's going to take some creative thinking and some process and some money on our part to stop ignoring prime property within the city limits. And so this is one of the projects that I very strongly support, because without it, it's hard to get those utilities to that property.
Some of them owe thousands of dollars in back taxes on that property. I've looked at each one to see, and so it's like they're holding it, but they're just
Yes, and
state take over.
Lance has the drawing from Bowman where we're looking at redesigning it because it's inadequately designed for drainage, grading, streets, everything. Some of the lots have been illegally split. So we are working to get it redesigned. We're trying to do everything we can to really get that property developable because, as we all know, we need housing, and it's right in the middle of the city of Safford, ready for infill if we can get it figured out. And we have met with attorneys, we've met with property owners. We're really trying.
But is that us taking on debt that maybe should be on the property owners?
At
Not
this,
right now.
right, and at this point, it is unfeasible the way it's designed for them to take on that debt, which is why it has set, this subdivision is older than I am, and we're back to those problems again. So if we're waiting on this very diverse group of people to come up with that amount of money, we'll probably be waiting another 50 years. And we're looking at annexing, but we have this right in the middle of our city already. And so we really need to look at all options for housing.
So we believe between that first project that we presented to you, that land acquisition fund, and this project to get a cost of the street that we'd have to pay for anyway, those are things the city we could facilitate this project. But again, whether you spend $2 million to build that street, conversations with the landowners and finding out what properties we could acquire in El Conquistador to kind of get it moving. Because right now there's too many property owners for the amount of property that's actually developable. So we have to figure out who doesn't belong there, buy them out possibly, and then this project might become more viable. But to be honest, she's giving you the honest answer. We've looked at the math. We've waited so long on this project. If they would have did it back in the 70s, you probably could have made it happen. But every year you wait, everything gets more expensive. The value that they have in their property, they'd have to double it just to pay for the infrastructure that they didn't build back in the 70s. So at some point, the city, in order to make this happen, if you want this to always be an empty lot, you do nothing. But if you want to make it happen, we might have to start slowly doing some of the work that the landowners should have taken on in the 70s in order to get it to move. Well, we have to do 100% of it, maybe 30% of it, but you're going to have to give some money from the city in order to make that project move. It's just not financially viable. There's nobody that would ever do that project the way it stands today. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's the only way El Conquistador is ever going to change, is the taxpayers have to bail it out.
Where do we end up if we're going to redesign and build a bridge to get there? What do we tell Langley, who has just as much property downstream of that canal that doesn't need a bridge but won't build anything? Are we going to have to build that too?
I guess you start the precedents, but for this one, the gentleman went to jail back in the 70s for what he did, and we're just living with that same sin 50 years later.
But
So,
there's easier property to develop closer
correct.
that we're not talking about, and the current owner won't do anything with. So I don't know.
They have a new representative. I've been speaking with her. They are looking at some of their property possibly on the east of town and there. So for the first time since I've been here the last few months, we are having conversations.
Good.
But you're right, that they don't have, the city's not gonna have to bail that project out,
No.
but I guess if someone went to jail there, then I guess they'd be in the same boat as El Conquistador, so. That's kind of the joke of it all.
Well, and that's the property that is on 14th that Langley owns is one unsubdivided parcel, the probably with one owner. That would just be our regular development process. The problem that we're running into here is, say if you had a property in the middle of El Conquistador, you would have to single-handedly, as a single-family home builder, build the water, sewer, drainage, grading, everything to your piece of property. And so that's the difference in those two pieces. One is a large unsubdivided one-owner property. The other has how many owners? A lot. A couple hundred owners. And so that's the difference. It wasn't designed with drainage. It wasn't designed with adequate right-of-way widths. It's too, the lots are too small. A lot of them have been illegally subdivided. They can't have a septic. So it's a little apples and oranges with those two pieces because one is one owner, unsubdivided, completely different than this amalgamation of pieces of property that has become El Conquistador.
But I think the two projects that were, this one right here is just getting an estimate of what it's gonna cost for that road, sewer, water infrastructure. And the other one is just buying up prime tax liens on those in El Conquistador. That could possibly at least give us a better vision of how much this could cost the city if we wanted to pursue. We're not doing anything in 2027. Those are decisions made later in the 5-year plan, but at least we would know what it's gonna cost. That's all we're trying to get is knowledge of what's it gonna cost. Are we not interested? Again, this is a weird situation where you're in a world of why are we helping these people?
You're talking about 14th Avenue going all the way to Discovery.
Yes. Well, this is just the road to get over that Highline Canal. 14th Avenue does exist once you get over.
The possibility of that bridge.
It's a very steep road. I mean,
Yes.
wish they would have did it back in the 70s. It's going to be a major project.
I've been wanting that bridge for a long time.
Sewer can't flow that fast downhill. It creates all sorts of issues. So you have to get a slow sewer system. So yeah, all those questions we want to be able to get answers for. So we can go to the homeowners and say, you will have to double the value of your property. You'll have to invest that in order to continue. And if not, then we come up with a more advantageous, hey, the city will do 30% if you do 70% of the cost. What will it take to get this to move?
It'll alleviate some of the traffic on 20th.
Yes, and we could also look at improvement district financing. There's other ways to do it. This would just be to see how much the bridge would cost. This isn't committing to anything else. And there are improvement districts. We're working with legal counsel to try to shake this loose in some way so that we can get houses in there.
I'd like to know how much the bridge is gonna cost.
Well, $100,000 in 20, it's a carryover. Lance reminded me there is $200,000 in this year's budget. So we do have 300,000 altogether. That's how we're able to come up with this cost estimate. So if we're still interested in that, at least know the facts, right? Right now, we just talk out of complete ignorance, I guess. All right, so East Relation Street is the other project I want to talk about. So we've had interest in annexation out here, and we believe this street is the next street logically to actually happen. This is Relation east of 91 all the way out to US 70. This would also be a bypass whenever the I-10 is closed. They would be able to use this to get to US 70 rather than go through our main street. So what we're lacking here is an actual design. So we know which properties we need to acquire. We are moving away from our section lines. So we would have to acquire property. That this is not land that we own for some of this. So we first want to get a design of what the road should look like, where it should go, and then we can start approaching landowners. Again, the $100,000 only gets us design. Whether or not we continue on with this is a debt-funded project in 2028. We can kick the can to 2031 and do it in, or we take it completely off the plan. But I believe this has always been on our plan, but we're actually committing to doing this in the next 2 years.
I thought a Panda and a Chick-fil-A was going in over there.
You can keep dreaming.
Don't start that rumor,
What,
please.
what dang page am I on?
So
here?
are you interested? Do you believe this is a necessary project? Is this a good thing?
We need to know which way we're going out that way. It's part of our 10-year plan development, I think.
So this was done in a an ADOT PARA study they did in 2018, I believe. They did a preliminary design across from the highway over to, from 191 over to 70. They created a generic alignment through some properties, very preliminary design and very preliminary cost estimate. I think in 2018, it was about $12 million for a road to go across there. The 100,000 would give us a little bit better alignment and design through there. The $1 million in 2028 would just be start to get land acquisition. And you're all aware we did purchase one house in there that we're going to take care of. And it's in the future right away. And as other properties come up in there, if they're in that potential alignment, we can acquire those as well. We don't have anything in the 5-year plan for construction of this. It would just strictly be preliminary design and right away acquisition.
Would that design?
Taxpayers won't see a lot of effort on this. It'll all be behind the scenes. We'll have our name on a few properties that everyone will wonder why, but future growth.
Would that design let us know if the railroad will even allow us to have a crossing to get to the highway? Because somewhere on there, we're going to have a
Oh,
crossing.
to cross over right as you get close to US 70? That's a good question.
Yeah, they only allow so many crossings, and that was part of the study. They talked about giving up a crossing somewhere to allow the crossing there. That was all part of that study. It would be part of that design and discussion to get that permission for that to happen. It would only be one access, and I think we could make it work, but it would have to be approved by ADOT and railroad.
So just $100,000 in 2027 to answer this question. Where should it be? Are we for it? Are we against it? Should it even be on the plan? Stop dreaming. Stick within the 10 square miles.
We're building that direction.
Anybody else? Vice Mayor, I have your support. Thank you. Anyone else feel about this?
I'm for either this road or First Street behind. We need somewhere to where we can start growing.
Okay, so First Street, where do you mean on First Street?
Behind the highway, north of the highway
North of the highway?
to 14th. Just open up.
Oh,
all
you
that-
want to
all
go over
those
there?
roads, Yeah.
That's not even on our plan. Do you want to add that?
Well, I want to do one of them.
Well, we talked about 14th Avenue going north to First and then
First
over to FedEx.
Is that
And all that up back there.
It's not in our 5-year plan, but we definitely can look at that.
Does anybody want that added? That's a interesting industrial section of town. Do you think that's a
There was a
movement that we
mall
need to
back
make?
back in the day. There was this great mall was going to come in back there.
The Thatcher built its sign right in the middle of the sign.
I'm still seeing 26th Street cross the highway and end up on that side of town.
When we start talking streets, we start dreaming.
At
So-
one point in time, we had ADOT talked into building that full intersection at 14th Avenue, and they were where the Birdno property is. So that was going to be developed for the light, and it was part of that ADOT plan where they ended up just replacing light bulbs and doing minimal work, and it got thrown out. So there has been a design. I think it went to 60% design for that intersection. I would like to see that intersection done and do our part to get it to the back of that Birdno property, at least to where we can, if somebody came and wanted to develop, they could go north.
I think that First Street's important.
So do you want us to, in the next 2 months, we'll develop a 5-year CIP, put together a plan, and incorporate that into our streets plan? Again, probably just looking for design of the whole idea in 2027 or 2028, possibly bonding in 2031 for that. So is that something that you guys want to see? Is that First Avenue, 14th Avenue, First Street project, I guess would be?
I think that's an important area.
Even going behind the theater as you go further?
Past FedEx over to
Yeah.
14th.
You're going from 20th Avenue
That
to
connection.
14th.
I think from 8th Avenue to 20th Avenue, we need
You want us to put that in the plan? This is something we're telling the public that we're interested in the next 5 years.
All the way
more realistic than Relation Street is.
So do you want to take relation off and go with a more realistic plan? Like Lance said, that's a $12 million relation. All we were talking about is land acquisition here.
Depends on whether you want residential or you want commercial. One's one and one's the other.
Yeah, one's residential, one's commercial.
We love commercial. It always
We
pays
love
for itself.
Well, they're both kind of commercial or industrial, except for
Can
the
be.
south of relation, I guess, could be.
I wonder if Panda and Chick-fil-A would go that way instead of East Relation.
That's what's stopping it?
Yeah.
Is that road, huh? So, I mean, what do you want to do? We can dream all day about streets that need to get built. Do you build them before they come? This is the same airport discussion. Do we build them now? Do we design them? Do we at least have a plan? Do we tell the public that we're interested in First and 14th, or do we tell them we're interested in Relation Street? What's our outward facing?
I think we need to have a
Message.
plan for both of them. I think
So
the
plans for
developer-
both.
The developer needs to build them, but we need to know what we want.
Well, part of these designs, and even that PARA study for the relation section was, it wasn't, well, I think the 12 million wasn't even a full build out. It was gonna build either one half of the road, kind of like over by the theater, the islanded, you do one half and then, but my idea would be to do the center island with lighting across there and one lane on each side of the island, and then development would finish out the improvements on both sides, because obviously you put a full road in there with curb, gutter, sidewalk, there's no driveways, they gotta come in and tear everything out, so that would be, the idea would develop the middle part, let development on the side. But we could design it,
So
you know,
the goal is design. We're not, I mean, a lot of this is just, and then you'll let us know in next year's CIP of what you want to do. As far as, do we want to pursue, have a developer do it? Or we have at least design for both these. So you'll come back and give me a number for that other one?
I think the bad thing on Relation is just the railroad track.
You don't have to do relation. We can pull it off the plan. If
You're
it's
limited,
not something you want to tell the public that you're spending money on, let's pull it from the plan.
we've already got a preliminary design for relation, somewhat preliminary. It's old, but it's, at least there's an alignment and something for us to go off of for property acquisition. We won't stop trying to acquire properties if they come up.
So we can continue to do that under the vague plan that we have right now, but our goal was to get a little bit better, get some defined properties and see if we could approach property owners and start to figure out what that price was.
Lance, so when they started doing the road to FedEx, you guys just stopped right there? There was no other plans to go to 14?
Well, we required FedEx to do that half set. So what they did in front of FedEx is actually it's the south half of First Street. So if somebody develops on the other side of the road, north side of FedEx, they'll have to do the other half of that island and another another full lane and sidewalk. So they've only developed the south half of their road for First Street. Now, I
There a
came
plan
back,
for it.
Yeah, was there a plan?
There-
Did you guys, like a general
there-
plan?
there was a plan for that, whoever, as development came in there, and I had a plan to do the same thing that FedEx did right behind the movie theater. That was in the CIP. We had that approved. It was bid and ready for award and got shut down by council back in the day, and we just did the improvements on Central. So I've got a plan to finish up behind the theater to match what's behind FedEx. And the idea would to take that whole road section all the way to, as Councilman McGoy said, clear over to 8th Avenue and some sort of alignment and tie into 14th Avenue midway across there.
We're still in for design, at least for, it sounds like we already have a design. We'll bring that one up to speed on First Avenue, and then relation is still a design.
We don't have a design we don't have a design for First and 14th.
So we'll come out to First and 14th and show you what that looks like.
We do have that or we don't?
We don't have it except for what's behind the theater. So we've got kind of a conceptual alignment. We know where we want to go, but we don't have any real design other than we have the 60% design that ADOT did at the highway and the light on 14th Avenue. And then we've got a full set of design right behind the theater and then a concept. So we'd have to do the rest of the design. So, and I can put that in. We can make a project.
Okay. So those two, again, whether we decide to do land acquisition on relation, we can talk about further. Sounds like we might be kicking that one to 2031. All right, keep moving on tonight. Downtown event bollards. So this is a new project. There's the signs that council member or vice mayor pointed out. These are getting installed this year. $50,000 will get these 4 signs installed in the downtown. So these are built and they've been laying down in the yard at airport for 2 years.
And so our current budget has 20,000 in it. I plan on having one of those put up. And it'll probably cost that much to put it up. So this would be an additional to try and get the rest of them up in next year's budget cycle.
These are a little bit fancier than what we were planning on for the entry signs, but they're definitely worth putting up, I think.
Actually, really nice.
Really nice. All right, the bollards, this is a new project. Again, I let Lance explain this one.
So, over the past few years, you've probably seen multiple events across the country where they've had vehicles bust through parade routes, well, all over the country, all over the world. This was an idea that was brought to me actually by one of our staff members. This is up in Prescott. We had the idea of buying some fancy vehicle barriers that you put out there, and you have to have a trailer haul them out, put them up, and they stop vehicles from coming through. Because right now we just cone off streets. This was a staff member brought this to me. They're up in Prescott, and Prescott put these up, and they're removable bollards. They all the way across the street. They've got sleeves put in the ground. They're in their concrete edge of their crosswalk, and they can block off any section of their main streets that by setting these bollards in there. There's drainage underneath them. So my idea for this first year if we wanted to do this, would just be a pilot program, and we would put in bollards across Main Street right in front of City Hall, basically at 8th Avenue and 7th Avenue, where we put all our vendors for the big events. We could do those two sections, possibly even do that with our internal forces and see if that's something we want to continue to do. And if we like it, we'd put something in the future budget and probably bid it out and have somebody do the rest of Main Street. So
Wouldn't 7th Avenue with the fire trucks and stuff,
It would be across Main, basically just blocking off the 400 block,
and they'll be easy to just
not
pull out?
7th. They're easy to move out. We could put them at all four legs of every intersection. You wouldn't obviously ever block off all 4 legs, but you could have the sleeves in place and put them in wherever you needed them blocked off. These things are about $1,000 for one setup, a sleeve and a bollard. So I was estimating, 20 to 25 of them to just do that 400 block, and then concrete and labor materials to finish them out. So
This is something you want to do. This is something coming, staff's bringing forward. Are you interested in these? Are they needed?
I think it's good for safety for our community because it really is ticking up, especially with all that's happening right now. So, yeah.
We do put on a lot of events. I don't know if you've seen our calendar. We'll talk about that on the 6th, so.
a lot of times we have these events where, there's just cones there, and somebody can just walk up and pull the cones out of the way, and they drive right in where the vendors are at. I mean, I think it's a safety feature that we could have a little more control in it. And it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we have something happen, and this would hopefully prevent that. So I think we do this as a pilot program. I think you guys will like it. We'll look at how it turns out, and then we can add more as we could do it in consecutive years moving on, or just knock it out and get them all done.
So I'll keep this one on where it's at, 2027
Yeah, I'm
for $50,000.
Yes.
Okay. All right, the last one, CDBG, we've kind of talked a little bit. We'll have some meetings about this. This is money from the federal government. 97% of it's covered, right? I don't
Yeah,
remember
this
what the
is-
math is on it.
This is obviously if we were to select a sidewalk project as a CDBG project. We'll have our public hearing, and we'll hear from the public. We'll hear from you. There's multiple ideas that we can do for projects, but if we did select CDBG sidewalk project, this is what that would be. So
So again, leveraging federal funds, you put in very little and you get a sidewalk out of it.
That'd
We
be
believe it'd be
great.
somewhere around the middle school, right?
Relation needs it.
so-
You have to live in a low-income
Yeah,
neighborhood.
we'll go over this when we have our public hearing, but it has to be in a low to moderate income, and that changes based on the census tract stuff. Our last CDBG project was over there by Leif Nelson in that blocked area, and we had that area, and we had the area just over across the highway on 8th Avenue was our 2 low mod areas. Neither one of those are in the low mod now. Now our low mod has moved to a completely different area. It's over there by basically Yard 2 all the way to Relation, and from 8th Avenue over to the highway, which is a whole new, it wasn't in the low mod last time, now it is. That area needs lots of help with sidewalks, so I like that it's in there. We've already gathered up some data in some places where we know we need sidewalks, and so I'm already starting to put together a project to bring to you, but obviously that has to go through the public hearing process. my vote is going to be for sidewalks. You guys may have some other ideas for CDBG funds. We'll go through that public hearing process and make that decision.
Any questions about that? This is just allowing the budget so that he can do what he needs to do. Again, the federal government pays for most of this project. Any questions about streets? I know streets gets our minds racing about what we could do, and what we didn't address is, I think a question came up about 14th Avenue in relation. I think he's gonna address that further in his operational budget in April. And I believe some of the crosswalk talk, he'll talk about at the April 20th meeting.
I did want to just get a feel. I know there's been suggestions about a project possibly at 14th, or no, Relation and 14th, where it's a four-way stop. I know we have multiple times of the day where that becomes congested for a short time, or pick up and drop off. I know I mean, the best solution would, and the cheapest solution would be to do a roundabout there, but I just don't think we could do a roundabout with the irrigation structure there. I want to know if you guys wanted me to put in there a possibility of putting in a stoplight, traffic light. I don't think it would warrant one if we did a study, because it's only busy for a short period of time. It probably would if that subdivision came in by the high school. Eventually it would need a light there. I just want to know if you wanted me to start looking at that as a potential project. I looked at some ways to maybe stripe that a little different, maybe where we could have a turning lane on Relation towards the school and a straight through, and it's just not a lot of room there. I've been looking at different options there, but if you want me to
Do we
start
want a
looking at
CIP for that? Is
project.
that rose to the level of a CIP? It doesn't have to be in 2027. It could be in 2028. It could be in 2029.
Do we even have something in the budget for 2027? Because I take that road to work every morning and at lunch and after, and I cannot tell you the amount of times the kids on their little scooters are crossing, and they've almost gotten hit. And thank goodness that the buses are coming across down 14th and have been able to stop it, but they've almost got hit lots of times because there's no crosswalk for them kids, and that's busy with kids. Even the moms come riding their bikes and watch their kids cross in front of the cars, and they're almost getting hit.
So, one council member, anybody else? I mean, I just need, you tell us, this is the community's plan. So if you want us to come up with a project on 14th and Relation, I'll go back in the next 2 months.
So, Councilman Brad, are you talking about a restriping plan to get crosswalks across all four legs of that?
Or a light,
Or a
or-
light, or?
Something, anything to help these kids, because there's a ton of them. You don't realize how many really walk and ride their scooters and their bikes in the mornings, almost getting hit. Even in the afternoons, when the buses let out and they're trying to get across, the kids are trying to cross
Well,
and traffic backs.
let me look at some ideas, and I'll go over with Jace as well. We'll come up with something, and we'll put something in the budget. It may not be a lot, maybe something that's preliminary design stuff. We can bring back to you some ideas, see what you want to go for.
Lance, is there an option to maybe speak with the schools and see if they can help have a crossing guard? I mean, that is primarily when, you know, there's a lot of the traffic is during the school time. So maybe we can
We can talk
reach
to
out to them and see and let them know that that is a concern. But because of like what you're explaining, maybe it's not necessarily a project, but more, you know, how can we collaborate with them to make it
Well, like
safer?
Councilman Brad, maybe we restripe that where we've got some good crosswalks there, some good striping on the roads, and define things a little better, but we'll come up with something. We do meet with the school quarterly. We can discuss different things there. I know one project that we haven't even got to it yet, but we probably will, but it's that the school wants us to put in a crosswalk on 20th Street, right there by Willow Avenue, right where the new school is, by the Dorothy Stinson School. So putting a crosswalk at Willow Avenue would benefit them because they can move their slow school zone further east. So if we got a crosswalk there and a crosswalk across Willow, we could get kids access into the Stake Center property over that direction. We couldn't really connect it back to 8th Avenue. There's a well in the way there, right there, but that's a project that they want. I'm putting it down as an adjacent way project. So if they give us the funding, we'll put it in. That's kind of how that one will happen.
The Willow.
At Willow, yep.
I think when, there was conversation a while back about having cross guards, but I think there was a liability issue, and a lot of different things came up.
I know that they don't like to get their crossing guards too far away from the school, and that might be an issue down there at Relation. But there are a lot of kids that come from that area, cross at that very busy
We'll have
intersection.
to do something when we get that bridge over the canal.
Yep.
It's gonna get
Uh,
thicker.
Ultimately, as that area develops, we'll need a traffic signal there, but it still doesn't mean we're not gonna need good striping and good crosswalks and all that stuff there too.
Anything else? Crosswalks he'll bring up at his April 20th meeting. The downtown curb heights, I think he'll talk about at the April 20th meeting. Okay, any other questions? This is your chance to 5-year vision for the city. I think we're running out of time too. At some point, we might want to cut this and do it on another night, Mayor. If you're looking for a suggestion, this would be a perfect stopping point. We've wore ourselves out. I mean, there's a lot more to go. Water is a huge project.
Just go ahead and call it.
Call it. So April 30th, we'll come back and do the second half of this for enterprise. Again, if you want to think about dreaming and then come back, if you want to add, if you want to delete, there's just a project you can't stand, April 30th. Okay? All right. Thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate the answers and the questions. All right, Mayor, turn it back to you for.
If there's nothing else, we'll need a motion. Just close, just go home
Work session.
while the
and
work
then
session.
We have 2 more items, announcement of current events and request for future agenda items. If there's none, then we can move to adjourn.
I have a future agenda item request.
Okay, we're gonna close the, work session and reconvene into our regular meeting. Item number 10, announcement of current events. Anybody?
Mayor, I'll be brief. Today, we had the Road to 250 Arizona Traveling Museum in front of City Hall. And speaking to 2 of the gentlemen that were there most of the day, they both estimated we had between 300 and 500 visitors. So I'd call that a success. It moves on to Clifton on Wednesday and back to our community on Friday. It'll be at Eastern Arizona College.
And it was very interesting. And that bell is very loud.
I couldn't hear you, Mayor. What was that?
Anybody else? Nope. If not, we need a motion. Future request items, agenda items. Okay.
I know I spoke with Troy about this, but I just wanted to get a formal request that we have a future agenda item be placed on an upcoming council meeting. And that's just discussion and acknowledgement of outstanding financial reports requested by myself prior to budget adoption. The purpose of this agenda is to place on the public record that I previously requested the financial reports necessary for the council to fulfill its fiduciary duty in the budget process, and that some of these reports have not yet been provided. Not saying that they won't, they just haven't yet. The reports requested include but are not limited to like year-to-date revenue and expenditure reports, cash fund balance reports, cash flow reports, outstanding liability and debt service, revenue and expenditure, departmental budget requests, the 5-year financial forecast, capital improvement plan, truth and taxation calculations, if applicable, the most recent audit report, which we've had that. So like I said, some documents such as the recent audit report may have already been provided. Several of the requested reports remain outstanding, and the council has not received the full set of information required to responsibly evaluate or vote on the tentative or final budget. I request that this item be scheduled so that council can formally discuss the status of these outstanding reports and provide direction to staff. Please include this in the requested official minutes.
Catch all that, Troy?
My suggestion was I'll be presenting my budget on April 20th. We can talk more about all of those items. On
I just
April
want to make
20th.
sure the option for
Yeah.
us to be able to discuss is on the agenda.
So specifically, we're going to talk about this on April 20th. Everyone's understanding that?
Yeah, and we can come into your office and look at all these forms and everything also.
You could, we'll have to talk about it. There's a lot of stuff that we prepare that I wouldn't really present to the council without some sort of review, and that would require some staffing changes. But we could talk about, these are all good things. These are good information that a council should have. It's just we're a small city, so what we can and can't do, I can explain during that April 20th and where we can get. Okay?
Anybody else? And if not, we'll need a motion.
To adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Okay. Thank you, everybody.